Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto Uzumaki clan survivors move to Konoha. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by lichenWhisperer and link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. Inside a conference room in the Hokage Tower, a meeting was underway. A red-haired man in his mid-20s, clearly annoyed at the direction the meeting was moving in, spoke up. I don't see what the problem is here, Lord Hokage. None of you deny that Naruto-sama is Kushina-sama's child. The Uzumaki clan, like most of the clans represented here, passed the leadership of the clan down via hereditary means. Naruto-sama is the next head of the clan. Of course, he's only an infant and can't rule yet, thus I am acting as the clan's regent until Naruto-sama meets both our clan and this village's requirements to take over the clan. The problem, countered Shimura Danzo, is that the moment the Yondaime sealed the beast inside of his own child, said child ceased to be a person, it is only a weapon, and the Uzumaki cannot be trusted with it. I will overlook your insult to Naruto-sama for now, Lord Elder, the Uzumaki regent said, his tone of voice conveying his extreme displeasure at Danzo's words, and what have we done to earn your distrust? We're not members of the Uzumaki clan brought here to Konoha in the first place to serve as Jinchuriki. Indeed, while individual Uzumaki were brought here, the Uzumaki clan was never present. Danzo countered, Uzumaki Mito became Senju Mito after her marriage to the Shodai Hokage, and Kushina came over by herself. Ultimately, I don't trust the Uzumaki clan to be loyal enough to this village. I suspect your loyalties still lie in your own homeland. Our homeland was destroyed. Came the fiery counter from a now very angry Uzumaki, no thanks to our allies here in Konoha who just stood by and let it happen. No, Danzo-sama, the Whirlpool village was destroyed. So few of us survived. We were lucky that Kushina-sama, the youngest child of our last clan head, survived here in Konoha and was able to set us up as an official clan before sending word to the few of us that survived the destruction of our home. I understand that with Kushina-sama now dead, there are no Uzumaki clan members left who has lived in this village for more than 6 months, but you do not have to worry about our loyalty, Kushina-sama made sure this place would be our home. Even if you are as loyal as you say, it is clear that you are too emotionally attached to our village's greatest weapon. It must be a cruel, cold, and emotionless in order for it to reach its true potential. Clearly, your clan would raise it to be too soft to be effective. Even more angry after Danzo revealed what his thoughts on how Naruto should be raised were, the Uzumaki regent realized he would not be able to sway Danzo and changed tactics. After taking in a deep breath to calm his rage at the elder, he turned to address the other people in the room, most importantly the heads of the other clans. I asked this of the clan heads in this room. How would you feel if your clan found itself in this situation, being asked to give up the future head of your clan in order to turn them into a soulless weapon? Reactions were mixed, but seemed favorable to the Uzumaki. Danzo and his organization were not liked by most of the clans, especially since the elder constantly tried to take members from the clans for his special training. Thus far, he had only been successful in recruiting clan members a couple of times, instead drawing most of his organization's numbers from the many orphanages throughout the Land of Fire. However, with the death of the Yondaime Hokage and subsequent return of the Sandaime, Danzo's influence would likely grow. Hiruzen Sarutobi was a legend and loved by nearly everyone in the village, but he was known to have a glaring blind spot when it came to the shady activities of Danzo, his longtime confidant. The clan heads may only have a limited number of opportunities left to express their displeasure with Danzo. Hoping to seal the deal, the Uzumaki regent once again spoke up. Yondaime-sama and Kushina-sama sacrificed their lives for this village. Their only request in exchange was that their son be treated like a hero. Should you allow Naruto to be taken from his clan, you will betray the faith that the Yondaime and his wife had in you. A few clan heads in the room that had not already been swayed to the Uzumaki side were now convinced. Few people in Konoha were more well-loved than the Yondaime Hokage, Namikaze Minato. After surveying the room, the Sandaime allowed himself to smile, clearly pleased with the result. He spoke, very well, Yoshide-san. Naruto will stay with the Uzumaki. As acting Hokage, I hereby recognize Naruto's hereditary right to lead the Uzumaki clan. Seeing as how the boy is only 2 weeks old, I hereby recognize you as the clan's representative on Konoha's council until such time as Naruto has met both the village and your clan's criteria for him to take his rightful place. Relieved to have won the battle, Uzumaki Yoshide, regent of the Uzumaki clan, finally allowed himself to smile as his thoughts turned to the 2-week-old baby that was likely asleep back at the newly constructed Uzumaki clan compound. Naruto-sama, you are safe for now. On a large plot of land on the outskirts of Konoha sat several recently constructed buildings. One clearly dominated the others in size. This plot of land was the new Uzumaki clan compound. The building in question was the clan's Great Hall. In a room inside of this building, some 20 red-headed men and women sat around a long table, discussing the state of their clan. A fierce debate, not unlike the one Uzumaki Yoshide had participated in at the Hokage Tower, was taking place. "You fool." A middle-aged woman was saying, glaring angrily at a younger man. "Look around you. Less than 30 people. This is currently the entire adult population of our clan. In addition, we have 5 children and 1 more on the way. Growing our numbers has to be our top priority. Why wouldn't we focus on encouraging our single members to seek partners outside the clan, and why wouldn't we look to the orphanages for a temporary boost? Because it will dilute our bloodlines." The man countered. "One only has to look to young Naruto-sama to see this. Lady Kushina married outside the clan, understandable given her circumstances, but now our future clan head is only half Uzumaki. If he marries outside the clan as well, his children will be only 1/4 Uzumaki. Our bloodline deteriorates too quickly to allow this. We need to focus on keeping marriages inside the clan and just having as many children as possible to keep our genetic purity." "Such foolishness." Yoshide mused. "I suppose it's about time I involve myself in this pointless debate. You needn't worry about Naruto-sama's genes." The regent of the clan, speaking for the first time since opening this meeting, caused all other discussions to stop and all eyes to turn towards the table's head, waiting for their leader's next words. True, Naruto-sama was born half Uzumaki. However, that problem has already been fixed. You may not have noticed, after all he isn't seen out and about much, but Lord Naruto's hair was blonde at first, much like his father's. However, since then it has turned red. "So?" the young man countered, still not grasping what his regent was implying. "All that means is that Naruto-sama will look like an Uzumaki, and hair color can and does change as children grow up, it doesn't mean his bloodline is any less diluted." "True, it will make him look like an Uzumaki, and that is undoubtedly a good thing," commented another young Uzumaki. "The civilians of the village seem obsessed with the idea of a blonde baby that became the demon upon having the Kyuubi sealed into him. But between the Hokage's laws about speaking openly about the identity of the village in Chiriki, the fact that Naruto-sama hasn't left the compound since he was brought here just after his birth, and the fact that his hair color has changed, people just might not recognize him. And he will not set foot outside the compound for at least 2 more years if I can help it." Yoshide responded, "I want to put as much time as possible between the Nine Tails attack and Naruto-sama being among the general population of the village. Hell, if that means he doesn't leave our lands until he starts at the academy then so be it, I will not allow the village to treat him like some bogeyman." Yoshide had grown a bit agitated as he spoke, but based on the expressions of his fellow Uzumaki, it seemed like the clan supported him on that. The fewer people that made the connection that Naruto was the Jinchuriki, the better his life would be. Offering a small smile, Yoshide added, "But that is a bit out of scope of what we were discussing," before turning back to the young clan member who had brought up the point about Naruto being half Uzumaki in the first place. "Izumu, you are young. You only recently turned 18, and because of that I will overlook your ignorance this time." Yoshide responded, now just annoyed at the stupidity of his clansmen. Once it was confirmed that the village would not attempt to take Naruto-sama from us, the issue of his genetics was taken care of. In an instant, a look of understanding came upon the face of the young Uzumaki Kazumi. "You performed the ritual." "When?" "As I said, as soon as it was confirmed that the village recognized Lord Naruto as Lady Kushina's heir and our future lord. You know that the younger someone is when they undergo the ritual, the better their chances of survival." Having dealt with Kazumi's ignorance, Yoshide turned his attention back to the whole of the clan. "I understand the concerns over bloodline, after all ours is very fragile. Had he remained only half Uzumaki, Naruto-sama would only have enjoyed our enhanced chakra capacity and strong life force. Our other Keki Genkai would have been impossible for him." Everyone nodded with understanding. Healing chakra, chains of chakra, and some other genetic abilities of the Uzumaki were only accessible to those of a certain level of Uzumaki heritage. However, Yoshide continued, in an almost chiding manner, "Did you forget that we are a clan of seal masters? Did you forget that we have a few injutsu designed to modify one's DNA? Did you forget about our clan's adoption ritual?" "Forgive me," Yoshide-sama Kazumi said, bowing low as he spoke and with his actions being mirrored by some others who had sided with him in the debate. "I did not forget about the adoption ritual, but I had heard that only the very best of Uzumaki Fuinjutsu masters could successfully perform it and I was unaware that such a person had survived the fall of Yuzu." As Kazumi finished speaking, an elderly man began laughing before speaking up himself. "The foolishness of youth, eh? Oh well, I suppose I had already retired from our shinobi forces by the time you had been born, young Kazumi." Grinning to the old man, Yoshide spoke once again. "Since apparently he needs to be reintroduced to some of you, allow me to present Uzumaki Takahiro-sama." Until his retirement some 25 years ago, he was considered our clan's foremost Fuinjutsu master in several generations. We are extremely lucky that he and his wife were outside of the village visiting a resort in the land of hot water when the attack on Yuzu began. And we are even more fortunate that years later Kushina-sama was able to learn of his location and contact him. Those who had not known just who Takahiro was prior to the debate beginning, mostly the teenagers such as Kazumu, turned and stared almost reverentially at Takahiro and Yoshide, decided that the old man would be able to end this debate once and for all. I would hear your opinion on this debate, Takahiro-sama. I am only 80 years old. Takahiro said, remaining in his seated position. With our clan's strong life force, I should still have at least a decade or two left in me, if not more. As such, I don't see why our members can't pursue marriages with outsiders or adopt from the orphanages. I can always perform the ritual on any young children that are adopted. Someone who is married into the clan should not have the ritual performed on them, it is just too dangerous once a person is over the age of 5, but I can perform the ritual on any resulting children. In addition, I would like to begin teaching someone what I know. I must not be the last Fuinjutsu grandmaster, another must take over that mantle. Takahiro's words settled any remaining dissent. The Uzumaki were far and away the smallest clan in Konoha, and if they wanted to become anywhere near as feared or respected as they had been before the fall of Yuzu, they needed to prioritize rebuilding. For a clan with less than 30 members, growth was paramount. Uzumaki Kazumu, along with 3 other young adults of the Uzumaki clan, stepped into the Senju Mido Memorial Orphanage. One of many orphanages in Konoha, and the only that had the distinction of being founded and supported by the wife of Konoha's first Hokage. Senju Mido, though Kazumu and his companions knew her by another name. Uzumaki Mido. Upon seeing the 3 Uzumaki enter her orphanage, the matron of the facility moved to greet her guests. My lords Uzumaki, welcome to the Senju Mido Memorial Orphanage. I am the matron here, how might I be of service to the Uzumaki clan? Greetings matron, I am sure you are aware of Mido-sama's heritage, yes? Kazumu answered. Yes, of course, I personally knew Lady Mido. She may have been forced to renounce her membership in your clan and join the Senju upon her marriage, but secretly she was always a proud Uzumaki. Good. Kazumu grinned, pleased to hear the matron's answer. We are here today to honor her. Yoshide-sama, regent of the Uzumaki clan, has authorized us to make a sizable financial donation to your facility and inquire as to any immediate needs you may have. The matron was, naturally, delighted to hear Kazumu's words, and the young Uzumaki quickly passed her off to one of his clansmen who had accompanied him. Said Uzumaki would handle that business, while Kazumu and the others wandered around the facility. Kazumu stepped into the backyard of the orphanage and took in his surroundings. Some 15 children were in the backyard, split into smaller groups playing. However, one child very quickly caught his eye. The young girl was playing on her own off in a corner. She wore a pink shirt and her brown hair was kept in 2 buns. She was currently yelling and pretending to punch the ground. Curious, Kazumu wandered over to further investigate. The young girl continued to play for several minutes, oblivious to Kazumu's presence. Finally, the Uzumaki spoke. What are you doing, little girl? The girl whipped around, clearly startled. At first, she seemed to be afraid, but she quickly recovered and bowed to Kazumu. Oh, I'm sorry sir, I didn't see you. That's okay, I can be pretty sneaky when I want to be. What were you doing just now? I was playing ninja sir. By punching the ground. I heard that Senju Tsunade-sama can make the ground blow up by punching it. The girl's eyes light up as she explained her actions. So you were impersonating Lady Tsunade then? Yes, she's my hero. I want to grow up to be just like her. Kazumu almost snickered, Tsunade's reputation preceded her. I doubt this girl would actually want to be a gambling addicted drunkard, Kazumu thought to himself before asking. What's your name? My name is Tenten, what's yours? I am Uzumaki Kazumu. It is very nice to meet you Tenten. Why do you want to be like Lady Tsunade? Because she's the best. Everyone knows she's the most famous kunoichi ever. I suppose it's to be expected, Kazumu thought, this girl doesn't even have a family name. The fact that Tsunade is so famous and well known is probably what draws Tenten to her. I must admit that after my parents died in the destruction of Yuzu I felt like I had to make a name for myself, and this girl is so young that she probably doesn't even remember her parents. Excuse me, Uzumaki-san. Tenten's question brought Kazumu out of his thoughts. Yes, what is it, Tenten? Are you a ninja? Yes. Would you teach me, please? Kazumu looked at the toddler that was staring back at him with what can only be described as puppy dog eyes, and he immediately realized he had lost. Sure thing. As the girl celebrated, Kazumu pulled out a scroll and unsealed a target board and 3 wooden kunai. Now these aren't real, true kunai are far too dangerous for a beginner, but let me show you how to throw them. Even after his fellow Uzumaki had left the orphanage, Kazumu stayed for several more hours, teaching the girl to throw kunai. From a window looking out onto the backyard, 3 Uzumaki, Yoshide, Kazumu and Takahiro, along with the matron of the orphanage, watched as young Tenten practice throwing her wooden kunai. "She does this at all hours of the day," the matron commented, before turning and offering a light-hearted glare towards Kazumu. "You've created a monster. She's driven to achieve her goals." Kazumu said, "That's why I keep coming back to help her." "I think it's more than that." The matron responded with a knowing smile. "You've been coming to visit her twice a week for the past 6 months. And today you've even brought your clan's regent and an elder to observe her." Suddenly, the matron's smile dropped. She quickly looked around, as if confirming that the 4 of them were alone before dropping her voice to a barely audible whisper. "If you're going to adopt her, do it soon. They've already started to notice how much she practices. I think they'll come for her before too long." "Who are these people you speak of?" Yoshide asked. "I don't know." The matron responded. "But it happens at all the orphanages, not just this one. Anytime a child shows some promise in the shinobi arts, 2 people come see me. They are very cold people, and they come bearing a signed order from an official in Daimyo-sama's court to take the child with them for specialized training. I never see those children again." "Brute." Yoshide thought, exchanging a knowing look with Takahiro. Danzo's organization was a poorly kept secret among high-ranking members of the village, and even with other villages. Long before either Uzumaki had resided in Konoha, they had known of the existence of the organization that was also known as the Foundation. Pushing the thought of Root from his mind, Yoshide tapped into his sensory abilities and focused them on the girl they were watching. Tenten doesn't seem to have unlocked her chakra yet. "Good, very good. That exponentially improves her chances of surviving the ritual," Takahiro said, whispering so that only Yoshide could hear him. Then, aloud, he said to the matron. "And you said she is 4. She actually turns 5 tomorrow." The matron responded. The elderly Uzumaki grinned, cutting it a bit close, "But she should be fine." "Yoshide-sama, Takahiro-sama, do I have your permission?" "Our permission is not required, Kazumu." Yoshide responded, "You may be young, foolish and headstrong, but you are undoubtedly the most promising shinobi in our clan, and I am confident in both your judgment and the fact that you will mature into a fine member of our clan one day. Perhaps adopting this girl as your daughter will jumpstart that process." Indeed, Takahiro added, "I believe young Tenten will make an excellent addition to the Uzumaki clan. It seems that she is about a year older than Lord Naruto and my Karen," Yoshide said, placing his hand on Kazumu's shoulder. "I hope your daughter will befriend them. Most of the clan's children are older, and they could use another friend around their age." Tenten continued to practice until she grew tired and she leaned against a tree to take a break. Shortly after she sat down, she saw Kazumu coming toward her. Quickly, she scrambled back to her feet. "Kazumu-sensei. I'm sorry, I'm just taking a break." "It's okay, Tenten, I'm not mad. We've been watching you practice for the last half hour, you're getting very good with those wooden kunai." After the initial rush of euphoria from the praise of her sensei ran through her, Tenten began to wonder just who the we Kazumu had referred to was, that is until the other 2 Uzumaki and the matron came out and stood a few feet away. "Kazumu-sensei, who are those people with matron-sama?" "That is Uzumaki Tamahiro-sama, he is an elder of my clan. And that is Uzumaki Yoshide-sama, the regent of my clan. Why are they here?" Internally, Kazumu became very nervous, it was time for the big reveal. "Well, I wasn't going to just give you your birthday present without getting permission from my clan head first." Tenten was perhaps a bit confused as to why Kazumu needed permission from his clan head to give her a present, but as with most kids, the excitement in knowing she was getting a present was all she could think about. "You got me a present, sensei. What is it? Let me see. Let me see." The matron quickly stepped forward and handed Kazumu a clipboard. Having seen this same situation before many times, recognition quickly dawned on Tenten's face and tears began to well up in her eyes. Still, she tried to hold it together, at least until she knew for sure. Kazumu squatted down so that his head was close to the same level as the toddler's before saying, "I'd like to adopt you, Tenten-chan. That is, if you let me." A river of tears now came from Tenten's eyes, but still, she managed to ask. "Will I have a Kasen too?" "I'm not married yet, but I'll let you in on a secret," Kazumu said, leaning into to pretend that he was telling Tenten a big secret. "There's a girl that I like and I want to ask her on a date, but there's one thing I need to do first." "What's that?" "Adopt you. You're a strong girl, Tenten. I know you can achieve your dream and become the strongest kunoichi ever. But I think you're missing 2 things. A forever home and a forever family. I'd like to give you those things if you let me." Before he had even finished speaking, the girl had thrown herself into him, wrapping her small arms around his stomach and burying herself into his chest as still more tears rolled down her face. Standing nearby, Yoshide, the matron, and Takahiro could just hear her squeak out. "Hi, Tusan." Izumu returned the hug and the two stayed like that for several long moments before finally breaking apart. "Now then," Kazumu said, his own emotions showing as his voice almost cracked. "I think I just need to sign here." He signed the form on the clipboard and I believe everything is official. Both turned to a grinning matron who nodded in confirmation, prompting Kazumu to turn back to Tenten, "And so it is, I'm the father of a beautiful little girl." In response, Tenten threw herself into yet another hug with her new father. When they broke their embrace for a second time, Tenten found that the other Uzumaki had approached and were looking at her. "As regent of the Uzumaki clan, I welcome you, Uzumaki Tenten," Yoshide said, his smile prominently showing. "Thank you, Yoshide-sama." Tenten responded, bowing deeply. She had not been in a clan before, but even she knew that you were supposed to bow to your clan head. "Tenten, go gather your things and meet me at the front door." Kazumu said, "I just need to file this paperwork with the matron and then we are taking you home." Home, the words seemed to linger on Tenten's lips. Finally, she looked up into her father's eyes, smiled, and responded, "Hi, Tusan," before running off. In a clearing on Uzumaki clan land, three red-headed children were playing, running around and chasing each other. They were watched over by two sets of adults. As the three children played, the sole boy of the group, Uzumaki Naruto, came to a realization. "Hey Karen, wasn't Tenten's hair brown yesterday?" "Yes," the smaller of the two girls confirmed. Naruto then turned to the third member of the group, "Tenten, why is your hair red?" "Dad says it's cause I went through the adoption ritual." "Adoption ritual? What's that?" No, but Takahiro Jai-sama drew a bunch of stuff on me, then he yelled phew and then it hurt, then I fell asleep. I woke up with red hair. Dad says that means the adoption ritual worked and that I'm really an Uzumaki now." "Of course you are." Naruto exclaimed, jumping into the air and raising a fist in joy, "The Uzumaki are the best." "Yeah." Both Karen and Tenten offered quick agreement, mimicking Naruto's actions. As the kids continued to play, Uzumaki Yoshide could only smile. It seemed that his daughter and Naruto had accepted and befriended Tenten. The clan had gained another member and the future looked a bit brighter for the children of Yuzu. Putting his positive thoughts about the future aside, the Uzumaki regent turned his thoughts to the present and to the woman sitting next to him as they watched the children play. "Are you sure you have to leave?" "Yes," his companion responded. "I've already stayed in the village for too long. I have too many bad memories of this place and have no desire to stay." A brief silence ensued before the woman continued. "I only came back to the village because I read your letter and wanted to pay my respects to Kushina and Minato, as well as offer my support to my grandmother's clan. Somehow Sarutobi-sensei roped me into helping out at the hospital as well. I've already been here 2 months when I intended to stay for no more than 2 days. I need to get going. Lady Tsunade, I know the decline of the Senju and the deaths of your brother and fiancé are painful, but we've all lost something. Hell, we Uzumaki lost our entire homeland and most of our friends and relatives. You don't need to keep running from your ghosts. You are part Uzumaki, we would welcome you as one of our own. No. If you won't do it for yourself, consider staying for Shizune's sake. Don't you drag her into this." It seemed as if Yoshide had touched a nerve, but despite Tsunade's legendary temper, he had a goal and he was willing to risk the slug Sanin's wrath to achieve it. He gestured, drawing Tsunade's attention to the other pair of people watching the children play. "See there, Shizune and one of the finest young members of my clan Uzumaki Kazumu. They've gotten awfully close in the last month. Shizune is young. She needs to be around people her own age. I hear seeing her old friends again and working at the hospital has done wonders for her." Tsunade saw right through Yoshide's ploy, trying to manipulate her by bringing her apprentice into the discussion. She remained stern-faced as she responded. "Shizune is free to stay if she wants to, she's not obligated to go with me." "Is she really?" Yoshide thought aloud, "I wonder what her answer might be if I ask her about any obligation to you." The crack appeared in Tsunade's metaphorical emotional shield. Yoshide's words had struck home, while she might not be forcing Shizune to go with her, the girl certainly felt obligated to follow. Sensing that he might have scored a minor victory, Yoshide pressed his advantage. "I'll be frank with you Tsunade, the main reason I wish for you to stay is for Lord Naruto's benefit. Look, Minato and Kushina were great kids, I really like them and will miss them, but I never agreed to be Naruto's godmother." "That's not what I'm referring to," Yoshide responded, gently shaking his head. "Naruto-sama will face a number of challenges. While keeping him secluded here has helped to dispel the idea that he is some sort of demon, and Sandaime-sama's orders have kept that idea from spreading. I estimate that roughly 1 in every 3 villagers is both aware that Naruto is a Jinchuriki and blames him for the events of that horrible night. I don't see how my staying here fixes that." Unfazed, Yoshide continued with his argument. On top of that, the political situation is quite dangerous for Lord Naruto. Shortly after his birth I was just barely able to save him from being given to a particularly vile village elder by the name of Danzo Shimura. Since then, the pressure to do so has not lightened. If anything, it's only increased. I see the Uzumaki still don't have much of a knack for formality and politeness. We are fully capable of doing both when necessary. I wasn't aware this was a formal meeting, Princess Tsunade. Drop it. Again, I fail to see how I can help Naruto there. Besides, Sarutobi-sensei would never let Danzo get his hands on the boy. Don't be so sure, your sensei is a good man, but being pulled out of retirement so suddenly has clearly impacted him. He has been ceding more and more powers to others. The elders are growing in power, as are the civilians, and they in turn are putting pressure on the clans. I'll do my best, but I'm not sure how much longer I can protect Lord Naruto. Again, how exactly does my staying help? Isn't it obvious? I'd like to ask you to take up the Senju clan's seat on the council. As a Sannin, last of one of the village's founding clans, and genuine princess, your word would go a long way. So you want me to not only stay in this god-forsaken village, but want me to actively get involved in politics? You ask too much, good day Lord Regent. Tsunade stood to leave, causing Shinzune to stand as well, preparing to follow her. Will you at least return to the compound to say your farewells to Naruto before you leave the village? Yoshide's question caused her to pause and turn to face him. Of course, he's a good brat, and even if I didn't want the role, he is my godson. At the same time that Yoshide and Tsunade were speaking. Across the field from the regent of the Uzumaki and the Senju princess, two young adults sat next to each other, watching the children play. They sat close to each other, closer than normal, with fingers interlaced as they held hands, with Kato Shizune's head resting against Uzumaki Kazumu's shoulders. Since being introduced to each other 7 weeks earlier, the two had instantly connected, though to this point, their relationship had gone no further than just the occasional display of affection. They'd never even been on a real date. And based on their conversation, it seemed like it might never progress to that point either. So you're really leaving then? It seems like it. I'm sorry Kazumu. I really want to stay, but I must follow Lady Tsunade. She's not making you go, is she? It's nothing like that, but still, I have to go with her. I wish you could have stayed. I do too. The somber conversation was interrupted by the intrusion of an oblivious 5-year-old. Dusan. Tenten, what is it? And as oblivious 5-year-old tend to do, Tenten asked questions that prompted great embarrassment. Is this lady going to be my Kasan? Shizune's face turned beet red, and Kazumu quickly put an end to this line of questioning. That's not the nicest thing to ask me in front of her, Tenten. Why? I'll tell you later, go play with Lord Naruto and Karen for now. Okay. Reminded that her friends were waiting, Tenten quickly forgot about Shizune and gave her father a quick hug before returning to play with her companions. Kazumu quickly turned his attention back to the embarrassed young woman sitting next to him. Sorry about that. It's okay. She likes you, you know. After she met you yesterday, she didn't stop talking about how cool you are for at least an hour. She's a good kid and she's lucky to have you. Out of the corner of her eye, Shizune noticed a clearly frustrated Tsunade stand and prepared to leave the Uzumaki clan lands, so she quickly got up to follow her master. Her standing prompted Kazumu to stand as well, their fingers still interlaced with each other as neither were fully willing to break apart. Shizune, please, consider staying. Kazumu, I want to, really I do. I missed Konoha, I missed my friends, and I'm really glad to have met you. I'll try to convince Lady Tsunade to stay, but I don't think it'll do anything. I expect we'll be leaving in 3 days or so. Thank you for everything. Surprising the young Uzumaki, Shizune stood up on her toes to be able to reach Kazumu's face, planting a quick kiss on his cheek before reluctantly breaking away from him and hurrying to catch up with her master. Out of the corner of her eye, Tsunade witnessed Shizune's display of affection and recalled Yoshide's words about her young apprentice. It was true that if Tsunade left, Shizune would follow. As much as Tsunade might have said that her apprentice was free to remain in Konoha, she knew there was no way that would happen. But was that really what was best for the girl? Pushing those thoughts from her head, Tsunade passed through the gates of the Uzumaki compound, offering no acknowledgement to the guards on duty and making a beeline for the nearest tavern. She needed a drink. Yoshide remained seated, watching the children play. Only after Tsunade had passed out of his sight did he turn his head to a nearby tree and speak. You can come out now. The person in the tree moved faster than a normal eye could track and within a matter of seconds was seated next to the Uzumaki regent. You know, Yoshide said with a smile on his face, we've been expecting you to visit the Uzumaki compound for more than 3 years now, had Kakashi. Well, I guess I got lost on the road of life, came the response from the teenage jonin. How much of my conversation with Lady Tsunade did you hear? The whole thing. Well then, you're hailed as a genius, surely you've realized that the things I said about Tsunade and the Senju clan could apply to you and the Haddock clan as well. Lord Uzumaki, I don't really know anything about my clan. My father was in exile and I was raised apart from it. Besides, Lady Tsunade may be the last Senju, but I'm not the last Haddock. There's still 15 or so members of the clan left. True, but the vast majority of those 15 members of your clan are 70 or so years old. They're retired elders. They're not capable of running or reviving a clan right now. They've earned their right to enjoy what years they have left in peace. If anyone is going to be able to reverse the fortunes of the Haddock clan, it would be you. I'm told they've been trying to get you to agree to at least live on clan property. The young Jonin looked pensive, or at least as much as one can with a mask over their mouth and a headband covering one of their eyes. After several moments of silence, Kakashi finally responded in a soft, almost subdued voice. I don't think that's the best idea. Everyone I get close to ends up dead. You ask me to save the Haddock, yet if I took over it would only hasten the clan's demise. I expected to have to emotionally manipulate Tsunade, she acts like a petulant child the way that she insists on dwelling upon the past. I expected better from you. You may still be a child, but I thought there was a certain level of maturity and pragmatism about you. So you're saying you're going to try to guilt-trip me like you did with Lady Tsunade, Lord Uzumaki. Rather than answering Kakashi's question, Yoshide just dove right in. Minato and Lady Kushina thought of you as a son. You know that, right? Silence. I'll take that as a yes. With Kakashi seemingly unwilling to speak, Yoshide rolled up a sleeve, revealing a kanji written on his arm. From that kanji he unsealed a scroll. He unraveled the scroll, passing Fuinjutsu matrices, indicating that an item was sealed there, searching for one particular item. As he did, he continued making his point. I hope Naruto-sama would view you as a big brother and that you would view him as a little brother. There's still plenty of time for you to have that relationship if you want. But more than anything, Lord Naruto needs allies. If you took the Haddock seat on the council, you could do a great deal to help him. Kakashi had no comeback, he very much wanted a relationship with his sensei's son and had often volunteered for Anbu missions, watching over the Uzumaki lands. Still, even as he acknowledged that everything Yoshide had just said was true, he couldn't envision himself as a clan head. Finally, Yoshide reached the spot on the scroll he was looking for and released the seal, revealing 3 sealed envelopes. After which, he turned towards Kakashi, offering one of the envelopes to him. On that fateful day, Lady Kushina had a feeling that something would go wrong and so she wrote 4 letters in case something happened to her. One was to Minato, another to Lord Naruto, one was to me, and the last one was to you. The reason I invited you to come by the compound, an invitation that I'll remind I made more than 3 years ago and which you are just now acting upon, was not to try to convince you to take over as the head of the Haddock clan, it was to deliver your letter. Kakashi took the offered envelope and just stared at it as if unsure of what to do. Go ahead, open it and read it. Despite his temporary affiliation with Root and the exercises Danzo had put him through to suppress his emotions, it was clear that as Kakashi read his pseudo-mother's final words to him, he was on the brink of tears. When Kakashi finally finished reading and looked up from the letter, he found Yoshide offering him a second envelope. I haven't had the heart to read Lady Kushina's message to her husband. Perhaps it would be best if you took it, you knew the man better than I did after all. I'm sorry, but I can't accept it either. Perhaps one day Naruto will take it. As Kakashi spoke, he also stood and offered a formal bow to the Uzumaki regent. Thank you for the letter, Lord Uzumaki, and for your words. You've given me a lot to think about, but I must be going. Oh, so soon? You don't even want to introduce yourself to your sensei's son? I do want to meet him, but I'm not ready yet, emotionally. I understand. Thank you for coming, Kakashi. Next time someone invites you to visit them, please don't keep them waiting for 3 years. Add. Uncle Yoshide. Yoshide-sama. As Yoshide watched Kakashi leave, 3 young voices calling out to him. Turning around, he saw the 3 children running towards him. Turning back towards where Kakashi was, he saw that the teen had already disappeared. When the children arrived, Naruto was the first to speak. Hey, Uncle Yoshide, who was that guy? Someone that I hope you'll be able to meet soon. Now come on Naruto-sama, Karen, the sun is starting to set, let's head home. Tenten, go see your father. As the sun set, the 5 Uzumaki that were left in the field began making their way back towards the cluster of buildings that made up the core of their clan's lands. While the children were satisfied after a fun afternoon with friends, Yoshide and Kazumu's minds were both wandering, each wondering if they had been persuasive enough in their conversations. Ultimately, upon getting back to their homes, it was hugs from their daughters that pulled the 2 back to the present. Only time would tell if they had been successful, but even if they had failed, they'd manage somehow. They were Uzumaki, and despite everyone and everything, they were still here. Ergwathapabafopith rin na ima ohide dafid iwan, despite everything and everyone we are still here, at least according to Google Translate, from a Welsh song. Chapters 1 to 3. Outline 1, Prologue already published. Chapters 4, Outline 2, Academy and Genin Life publishing now. Chapters Outline 3, Chunin exams outline is done, but I make no promises on how long it will take to turn into prose. 9 years later, Hokage Tower Complex Conference Room B. Uzumaki Yoshide took his assigned seat in Conference Room B, unlike the normal meeting rooms, which gave the clan heads very prominent seating and was designed for discussion and debate. This room was designed to look more like a lecture hall and was often used by the Jonin commander to brief their subordinates about various things. On this day though, the room was crowded with a veritable who's who of Konoha. In addition to the elders and the clan heads, various wealthy businessmen, the heads of prominent non-clan shinobi families, and even representatives of the daimyo were in attendance, along with a number of jonin. Seated on either side of Yoshide were other clan heads, and he made casual small talk with them until Hiruzen Sarchibobi walked up to the podium, flanked on either side by Shikaku Nara in his capacity as jonin commander and Choza Akimichi in his capacity as head of the village's Department of Education and Shinobi Training. The arrival of the trio on the podium essentially silenced the rest of the room. "Good morning everyone, and thank you for being here for the annual Academy graduation briefing," began the Hokage. "We have a talented crop of Academy students who are eligible for the graduation exam this year, and at this meeting we'll go over some information about the class as a whole and discussion possible candidates to serve as Jonin Sensei. I know we have some new faces in this meeting, so I've asked our head of education and training, Akimichi Choza, to give you a high-level overview of this graduating class's time in the academy." His introduction complete, the Hokage stepped aside, allowing the head of the Akimichi clan to take over. "Thank you, Lord Hokage. In total 150 academy students are eligible to take the graduation exam this year. Broadly, we can divide these students into 2 categories. As Choza went on, Yoshide could only smile. It always surprised him how the heads of the Akimichi, Nara, and Yamanaka clans could be blackout drunk one night and then up in the peak of professionalism the next morning. The actual information presented was nothing new to Yoshide. 50 of those who were eligible to take the graduation had actually passed the exam in previous years but had failed the true exam and had chosen to return to the academy to try again. If they passed the true exam this time, they'd finally become genin. It was the group of 100 students who would be attempting to graduate for the first time that Yoshide was much more interested in, and he paid close attention when Choza began discussing them. 6 years prior, when this graduating class had entered the academy, they had been divided into 4 classes based on skill level and ability. In the bottom class, no students were expected to pass the academy graduation exam, and in the 6 years prior only 3 of those students had even been able to unlock their chakra. This wasn't uncommon. A lot of civilians sent their kids to the Shinobi Academy, but kids from a purely civilian background rarely had enough chakra reserves to amount to anything. There is a reason that shinobi tended to marry other shinobi. Genetics played a big role in chakra. Overall, Choza estimated that about 66 students would pass the academy graduation exam, and that of those 66 about 33 would pass the true exam and become genin. Those that passed the first exam but failed the second would be given the opportunity to return to the academy and try again the next year. Each student had 3 total attempts to pass the true exam. If they couldn't pass in 3 attempts, they'd be offered a spot in the village reserves. There, they'd live and work as a civilian in day-to-day life, but would continue to train their shinobi skills and could be called up to serve during emergencies and times of war. In the top class, which was almost entirely composed of students from clan backgrounds, with the exception of 1 civilian, each of the 24 students was expected to pass both exams, with the remaining 9 expected to pass a Jonin instructor's exam coming from the second highest class, and all coming from shinobi backgrounds. With his overview out of the way, Choza dived into brief profiles of the top 10 students overall, and it was here that Yoshide paid very close attention. After all, both his daughter and his future clan head were among the expected graduates. Of course, we won't be ranking these students yet, I won't have those details until after their exam next week. Choza was saying, but overall our anticipated top 10 this year is one of the strongest batches of students in many years. The heirs of several clans are among the expected top 10, including Aburame Shino, Akimichi Choji, Nara Shikamaru, Uzumaki Naruto, and Yamanaka Ino. Those who knew how to get rid of Shinobi's metaphorical poker face were easily able to tell how pleased the heads of those clans were that their sons, daughter, and nephew all placed so highly. In addition, various other relatives of current clan heads are in the top 10. Hyuga Hinata is one of Lord Hyuga's daughters. Inyazuka Kiba is Lady Inyazuka's second child, Uchiha Sasuke is Lady Uchiha's youngest, and Uzumaki Karen is the daughter of the Lord Regent of the Uzumaki clan. Finally, for the first time since the Yondaime, a child from a purely civilian background is expected to graduate in the top 10, Haruno Sakura. There was a lot to unpack there. Yoshide was naturally proud of his daughter's work, but it was expected, and there were fewer ramifications from it than the announcement of Sasuke and Sakura, both having a projected top 10 status. Indeed, the announcement Sakura's performance had sent a flurry of whispers throughout the meeting room. The Haruno Merchant Guild were well known for not just their wealth and influence, but for their desire to establish market control not just in the capital, where their headquarters was located, but in Konoha. They'd been trying to negotiate contracts and alliances with shinobi clans for years. There was even a rumor circulating among the clan heads that Sakura's enrollment in the Shinobi Academy had not been her own choice, rather the guild entered her with the sole purpose of having her catch the eye of some young clan heir so that they could marry her off and create an alliance with a clan. I can't say for certain if that is the reason she was enrolled in the academy or not, but the representatives of the Haruno Merchant Guild have certainly expressed an enthusiasm for offering her hand in marriage to Lord Naruto. Yoshide thought, reflecting on those rumors. Then there is the case of the Uchiha. Several years prior, during Naruto and Ko's second year at the academy, word had reached the village higher-ups that the discontent among assorted members of the Uchiha clan had grown past the metaphorical boiling point and that a small faction was seeking support from their clan members for a coup. A very discreet investigation had revealed the number of Uchiha on board with the plan was small, only 30 or so members. But that the group included several high-ranking members, including the clan head, Uchiha Fugaku. The clan's heir, Uchiha Itachi, was the one who had reported the coup and noted that another faction, led by his mother, Uchiha Mikoto, was actively opposed to the idea. Various high-ranking officials in the village with their own agendas took advantage of the situation, and the end result was that a small group of Uchiha ended up very publicly executing the group planning the coup, with Mikoto personally executing her husband. Itachi was also involved. While this prevented the coup from taking place, it led to a division within the Uchiha clan. A majority supported Mikoto and Itachi, but there was a smaller but very present faction that felt that the two had too much blood on their hands to lead the clan. This faction wanted to Sasuke replace his elder brother as the heir and to exile both Mikoto and Itachi from the clan. The clan's internal politics were said to be incredibly tense, and Sasuke placing among the top 10 graduates, well expected, likely wouldn't help the situation. Yoshide was pulled from his musings by Choza handing the meeting back over to the Hokage, who then opened the floor for suggestions on possible Jonin sensei. A number of names were put forward for consideration, each usually eliciting a few arguments for and against by various meeting attendees. But it was one attendee who caused the most obvious reactions after speaking just 3 words. "I nominate myself." "Of course you do," Kakashi-kun the elderly Hokage responded. A small number of attendees, Hokage and Uzumaki Regent both included sported knowing smiles, having anticipated this outcome. For others, Kakashi's actions required an explanation. "Lord Haddock, you have generally shown yourself to be averse to teaching in the past, why the sudden interest now?" "Well, for one, I do have a very young son at home, and I'd actually like to be around as Obito grows up. Then there's the fact that Anko is 3 months pregnant with our second child, so I'd really rather stay close to the village." Kakashi's explanation was interrupted by a round of congratulatory remarks, Yoshide's own well wishes among them. The Uzumaki regent had been unaware that the Lord and Lady of the Haddock were expecting a second child. "Then there's the fact that I believe that I am perhaps the perfect candidate to teach Lady Uchiha's youngest." "How so, Lord Haddock?" Kakashi turned to face the aristocrat that the daimyo had dispatched from the capital, speaking to the man's face as he responded. "I won't get into too much detail, but suffice to say that it would be best if young Sasuke-sensei was capable of teaching him about the Sharingan. That narrows down the candidates for his sensei to the various Uchiha Jonin and myself. Given the division within their clan, any Uchiha assigned by the village to teach Sasuke could be interpreted as the village picking a side in the clan's internal affairs. Leaving me the only possible candidate who is both neutral in said affairs and capable of providing instruction on the Sharingan." A nod from Mikoto confirmed the point, and Kakashi turned back to address the meeting as a whole. "And finally, I'm interested in my sensei's legacy." The majority of those in the room who know the identity of both of Naruto's parents understood exactly what Kakashi meant and either smiled or scowled, depending on how their knowledge of the current host of the Nine Tails and thoughts on Jinchuriki in general, but either way this group was small. For the majority, who only knew the identity of Naruto's mother, there was confusion about just what legacy of the Yondaime Kakashi was referring to. His smile only haven gotten wider the more Kakashi spoke. Hiruzen was practically grinning from ear to ear when he silenced any further discussion of Kakashi's candidacy, moving the discussion on to other names. At the end of the long yet satisfying meeting, after saying his farewells to various other clan heads and dignitaries, Uzumaki Yoshide found himself passing by the Jonin Lounge ready room just at the same time that Uzumaki Kazumu was signing out from a shift as a standby Jonin. The two Uzushio-born shinobi then found themselves passing by the C&D rank mission assignment desk just as Konoha Genin Team 9, under the leadership of Jonin Sensei Might Guy, were collecting their paychecks, having just completed their final D rank of the day. This happy coincidence allowed Uzumaki Tenten, the former clan-less orphan, to sneak a hug from her adopted father when she thought her teammates weren't looking. After a few more moments to say her farewells to her teammates, Tenten joined her father and her clan regent in walking out of the Hokage Tower administrative complex and onto the streets of Konoha. The Uzumaki clan compound was on the outskirts of the village, a long ways away from the tower. Apparently in the years prior to the Uzumaki officially resettling in Konoha, there was a faction of village officials that were trying to convince the Uchiha to give up their centrally located complex and take that plot of land, much to the disdain of the Sharingan wielders. As such, the petition for a plot of land for the Uzumaki clan had been welcomed and supported by the Uchiha, who were able to maintain their preferred compound location. It meant that the Uzumaki were on the outskirts, but it also meant that the land came cheap, as the Uchiha had subsidized a portion of the costs to incentive the new clan to take the land. Given their desire to hide away Naruto in his early years of life, the location had worked out quite well for the Uzumaki. One of the results of the Uzumaki compound's location was that the most convenient route between the Hokage Tower and the compound ran right past the village Shinobi Academy. Based on the time of day, near the time that the academy released, Yoshide, Kazumu, and Tenten were expecting that portion of their route home to be quite crowded. And indeed it was, though that was not wholly unpleasant. The crowd of red-headed Uzumaki Academy students were swarmed around the few adult clan members who had come to meet them. Included among them was one of the few non-redheads to be counted among the clan's membership. Uzumaki Shizune, wife of Kazumu and mother of Tenten. She seemed to be struggling, attempting to corral the youngest Uzumaki Academy students while also dealing with a clearly upset toddler, Tenten's youngest sibling, whom she held in her arms. Some of the older Uzumaki Academy students, such as the three Uzumaki in their final year of academy study, Uzumaki Daisuke, Yoshide's daughter Karen, and of course Naruto, were trying to assist her, but apprentice of Tsunade not quarreling that many children was not an easy task for one person. Particularly considering children currently outnumbered adults in the Uzumaki clan. Yoshide, Kazumu, and Tenten couldn't have arrived at a better time. Tenten immediately shifted into big sister mode, taking her youngest sibling from her mother's arms and corralling her middle two siblings. She may have been the only one of the four to not be Kazumu and Shizune's biological child, but all her two brothers and her sister all looked up to her and would follow her anywhere. No longer having to worry about her youngest, and now assisted by her husband and Yoshide in addition to the final year academy students, Shizune was able to quickly take charge of the situation, corralling all the 25 or so Uzumaki clan members currently enrolled in the academy and marching them off toward the Uzumaki compound. For Yoshide and Kazumu, the sight brought back memories of the state of the clan a decade earlier. Less than 30 adults, 5 children, and 1 on the way. The future had looked bleak. Between the adoptions and the baby boom, things had completely changed. As he had predicted, the great seal master Takahiro had been busy performing the adoption ritual over the years. His task was to ensure that those who were adopted into the clan and were young enough to survive said ritual, or born half Uzumaki, as the result of a clan member marrying an outsider, were transformed into full-blooded Uzumaki clan members. Because of this, there were almost as many full-blooded Uzumaki children currently enrolled in the academy than there had been adults in that meeting all those years prior. And that was just the children that were old enough to attend the academy, which under peacetime regulations wasn't possible until a child was either 7 years of age or would hit that milestone during their first 8 months of attendance. What a difference a decade could make. If such a big change had happened in this decade, Yoshide and Kazumu couldn't help but wonder what the next decade would hold for the children of the whirlpools. I'm not normally a big fan of Ox, but the nature of this story being what it is necessitates a fairly large number of Ox. There just aren't that many Uzumaki characters in canon. As it is, we've seen the following original characters. Uzumaki Yoshide is the regent of the Uzumaki. Kushina designated him as her successor in case something happened to her before Naruto was ready to lead the clan. He was born in Yuzu, but was a child during the fall of the village. He is similar in age to Kushina. If I remember canon correctly, Kushina was 24 when she died. Yoshide is in his mid-20s at the start of this story, maybe a year or two older. This puts him in his mid-30s here in chapter 4. I toyed with the idea of making him Naruto's actual uncle, But the way I have set this up, if Yoshide actually was Kushina's elder brother, he likely would have been higher up in the clan's line of succession and likely would have been the clan head, passing the title on to his daughter Karen, the canon Karen, BTW. Therefore, he's not actually Naruto's uncle, but Naruto refers to him as such because Yoshide and his wife ended up being Naruto's primary caregivers and guardians. His wife is an as of yet unnamed Ak, and he is the father of Karen, along with some other Ak children. Uzumaki Kazumi is a jonin of Konoha who specializes in Uzumaki-style kinjutsu. He was born in Yuzu. In the prologue, chapters 1-3, he is somewhere between the ages of 18 and 22. This would put him in his late 20s to early 30s here in chapter 4. He adopts the canon character Tenten and marries the canon character Kato Shizune, now Uzumaki Shizune. In addition to their adopted daughter, the couple have 3 biological children. Uzumaki Takahiro is an elder of the Uzumaki clan and the only Fuinjutsu grandmaster to survive the destruction of the village. He had retired prior to the end of the Second Shinobi War and was out of the village on vacation when it was destroyed. He is 80 in chapter 1 and will be in his early to mid-90s when he appears next. Uzumaki Daisuke is a young member of the Uzumaki clan who is the same age as Naruto and Karen. Like Tenten, he was born in Konoha and was an orphan who was adopted by a yet unnamed Uzumaki clan member and successfully underwent the clan's adoption ritual. If I ever refer to the 4 Uzumaki or something along those lines, it will be a reference to Naruto, Karen, Tenten, and Daisuke. At this time I have no plans to make him a major character or anything like that, but he'll be around, always on the periphery. The clan's adoption ritual is an idea that I can't take credit for. Other authors here on this site have used a similar idea. In the context of this story, the adoption ritual is an Uzumaki clan's secret technique. A Fuinjutsu that modifies the DNA of the person it is used on, essentially making them full-blooded Uzumaki. There is an inherent danger in the ritual, and it is therefore only considered safe for people under the age of 5 when the body is less developed and the chakra is less likely to be awakened or developed. As such, Takahiro uses it on 2 broad groups of people. Young adoptees like Tenten and Daisuke and children born to one Uzumaki parent and one non-Uzumaki parent, such as Naruto and the biological children of Kazumi and Shizune. Hope that provides a bit of insight into some of the Uzumaki that we have seen so far, as well as how people like Naruto and Tenten have Uzumaki-style hair and are able to use Uzumaki abilities. Konoha Shinobi Academy, classroom of the final year advanced class. Uchiha Sasuke. With a confident smirk, the younger son of Lady Mikoto Uchiha strode down from his seat towards the instructor who had called his name. The 4 classes of final year students were taking their graduation exams. In the advanced class, the written exam, projectiles exam and Taijutsu exam were all completed. The ninjutsu exam was in progress, with only a few students left to go. Next will be Daisuke, thought Naruto as he glanced at the red-headed boy on his left. Like Tenten, Daisuke had been an orphan that had been adopted by an Uzumaki and who had successfully undergone the clan's adoption ritual. Though whereas Tenten was a year older than Karen and Naruto, Daisuke was the same age. Then Karen. The only Uzumaki in the room to have actually been a full-blooded Uzumaki at birth and for all intents and purposes Naruto's sister. After his parents' death, Naruto had not been formally adopted by any clan member but had been raised by Regent Yoshide and his wife, making Karen and her 2 younger brothers essentially Naruto's siblings. Then me, and then last but not least will be Ino-chan. The door opened and Sasuke strolled back into the room, a Konoha headband around his head. Mizuki, the class's assistant instructor, appeared at the door, clipboard in hand, and bellowed out Uzumaki Daisuke. As Daisuke stood, Naruto extended a fist, prompting the boy to bump his own fist with Naruto's. "You've got this, Daisuke. I'll do my best, my lord." As Karen approached and offered her own motivation to her clansmen, a voice from the row below them spoke up. "You better pass, Daisuke, wouldn't want to disappoint Lord Uzumaki-sama." "Really, Ino? What a drag. I thought taunting the Uzumaki for stuff like that stopped being funny when we were 10. Munch munch, I don't think she's trying to get a rise out of Daisuke Shika. She knows the whole "oh the Uzumaki never actually referred to Naruto casually" thing stopped being funny a few years ago. Munch, I think she's working the Naruto doesn't like being addressed formally and freaks out when anyone other than his own clan does it because he surrendered to the fact that the Uzumaki will refer to him as such whether he likes it or not, and that's funny angle. In the row below where the 3 Uzumaki had chosen to sit sat another notable trio. Akimichi Choji, Nara Shikamaru, and Yamanaka Ino, heir of the Akimichi clan, heir of the Nara clan, and heiress of the Yamanaka clan respectively, and the next generation of the famed Ino Shikacho trio. Raised as siblings in all but blood, they regularly bickered with each other, Ino and Shikamaru especially, but it was obvious to all that those arguments came from a deep bond of love that the 3 had, just as it had been with their fathers. Outside of his fellow Uzumaki, the Ino Shikacho were Naruto's closest friends. One of Naruto's first excursions outside of the Uzumaki clan compound had been to attend Shikamaru's birthday party. It was common practice for clan heads, heirs, and their immediate family to be invited to the birthday parties of young clan heirs. It was there that Naruto had met the trio. Ino was definitely going after me, Naruto said, acknowledging Choji's earlier statement. You wish I'd give you the time of day, Naruto. Ino scoffed in mock protest. Their gazes met, and for the briefest of moments a dusting of red lit up the faces of both Naruto and Ino, with Naruto's blush almost matching the trademark shade of Uzumaki red that his hair was. Yes, Naruto and Ino liked each other, and every adult who had seen the two interact had instantly known it. They'd been like this since they first met, but sadly it wasn't to be. One's destiny was to lead the Uzumaki, and the other was destined to lead the Yamanaka. A union between them would have been impossible. Yoshide had expressed as such to Naruto as soon as the 12-year-old started to actually show signs of hitting puberty. Again the door opened, revealing that Daisuke now sported a Konoha headband around his red locks. Uzumaki Karen called Mizuki. Karen left to the well wishes of her friends, and Daisuke returned to the hearty congratulations of his. After thanking the Ino Shikacho, Naruto, and taking his seat, Daisuke was congratulated by the final member of Naruto's immediate group of friends. Turning his head around to view the solitary figure sitting in the row above them, Shino Aburam. Shino was a bit odd. Usually quiet to the point that it was easy to forget that he was even present, but he had been a loyal friend to the Uzumaki and the Ino Shikacho for several years at this point, having made friends with them after his father encouraged him to be more social. So on this, the most stressful day of Naruto's life so far, he was surrounded by friends. Only Tenten was missing. Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto was pulled from his thoughts to see that Karen was almost halfway back to her seat and sporting a Konoha headband. So far everyone in their group had passed. He stood, accepted the positive vibes from his friends, congratulated Karen, and walked through the door. On the other side he was faced with a panel of three. The headmaster of the Shinobi Academy sat on the left, Iruka Yamino, the class's primary instructor, sat in the center. On the right, the aforementioned Mizuki. Naruto easily performed the substitution jutsu, as well as the henge jutsu, where he changed into the shape of his uncle Yoshide. When prompted for a clone technique, Naruto called on his Uzumaki heritage to make a water clone, prompting the headmaster to mutter that it was the same technique that Karen and Daisuke used. Well, they might be more well known for Fuinjutsu and Kinjutsu, but let's not forget that the Uzumaki are well known for their water element as well, much like the Sarutobi and Uchiha are for fire style. Iruka responded, before turning to the red-headed Uzumaki clan heir. Congratulations Naruto, you've passed. He said, handing Naruto his headband. After accepting the congratulations of the three judges, Naruto waited for Mizuki to open the door before walking through it as the instructor called out, and last, but not least is Yamanaka Ino. Naruto and Ino met in the middle of the stairs, and even though the entire classroom's eyes were on them, it was like no one else was there. Congratulations, Naruto. Thanks Ino. I know you'll do great too. I'd say we should celebrate by going on a date tonight, but the other day Daddy explained to me why that wasn't possible. Wait, you like me, Ino? Yeah. I like you too, but you're right. Uncle Yoshide already walked me through why we can't be together. We're friends though, right? Ino looked at Naruto with a set of puppy dog eyes that no male figure in Ino's life, be it her father, her quasi-brothers, or Naruto, had ever been able to say no to. Of course we are, he smiled, hugging her as he spoke. We're great friends Ino. Now go on, show Iruka-sensei what a kick-ass kunoichi you are. -1 week later. Back in the same classroom, Naruto was surrounded by familiar faces, flanked by Daisuke and Karen, with the Ino Shikacho trio in front of him and Shino behind. The septa chatted amicably as they waited for Iruka to enter the room and announce the newly formed genin teams. The fact that this was likely the last day they would be gathered together like this was not lost on them, or at least some of them. An era was ending, they were going to be shinobi of Konoha, adults in the eyes of the leaf. Able to drink, marry, and yes, kill. As Joza had predicted several weeks prior, every member of the top class had graduated and received a headband, so the room was just as crowded and lively as normal when Iruka entered, giving the class a fond farewell and some sage words, before jumping into the team assignments. If Naruto were to be honest with himself, he could barely contain his excitement. However, Yoshide had given him a talk of sorts the day after he passed the graduation exam. Naruto was going to be a genin now. No longer a child, combine that with his role as the future head and greatest hope of his clan, and there were going to be lots of eyes on him. So Naruto did his best to stay calm as he waited to hear his name, though more observant members of the class may have noticed that he was unable to stop twiddling his thumbs. Team 7, Haruno Sakura, Uchiha Sasuke, Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto's first reaction was to frown, he was not particularly close with either member of his squad and would have preferred to be with friends. Still, trying to keep his composure and act as a clan heir, Naruto offered a small smile and a nod of his head to both of his new teammates. Teammate, Aburame Shino, Inuzuka Kiba, Uzumaki Karen. Naruto grinned, at least some of his friends would be on the same team. Karen offered a smile and a fist bump to Shino, who surprisingly raised his fist to meet hers before both of them mimicked Naruto's actions. A smile and a nod of acknowledgement to Kiba. Team 9 is still in use, consisting of Hyuga Neji, Rock Lee, and Uzumaki Tenten, under the leadership of Might Guy. They are 1 year older than you. Team 10 will be Akimichi Choji, Nara Shikamaru, and Yamanaka Ino. The trio showed no reaction. This was expected. Their fathers had been teammates, their grandparents had been teammates, all the way back to the founding of the village. Even before the 3 clans had joined the nascent Leaf Village, they had specialized in working together with each other. Ino, Shikamaru, and Choji would actually be the 16th consecutive heads of the 3 clans to actively form a team together. A legendary tradition in the shinobi world. Perhaps the trio would have reacted if they weren't paired together, but breaking up the formation would likely have caused a major political crisis in the village. This team was all but preordained. Our last team is Team 11. Hyuga Hinata, Sai, Uzumaki Daisuke. A sympathetic look was exchanged between Naruto and his clansmen. It seemed neither of them would have friends on their team. When Daisuke went to offer a smile and nod to his new teammates himself, Naruto took a moment to reflect on the placements. Interesting, based on these teams I'd say there is almost a formula to how they assemble them, Naruto thought. Top graduate. Shino, last graduate. Kiba. Ino is the top kunoichi, but she's a special case because of her clan tradition, so the top girl available is Karen. Sai, Hinata, and Daisuke are all in the middle of our class rankings. Sasuke and I tied for second behind Shino, and while Sakura was top girl on the written exam, she did poorly enough on everything else to be second lowest overall, only her book smarts let her beat Kiba. And based on what I know of last year, Tenten was top girl, so I'm willing to guess she was placed with the top boy and the overall lowest as well. When the class had finally calmed down from the adrenaline rush of team assignments, Iruka made the point of requiring the new teams to sit together. So after a few minutes of reshuffling, Naruto found himself sitting in the aisle seat of a new row, with Sakura next to him and Sasuke leaning against the window. Iruka then gave the teams a few minutes to acclimate before dismissing the new teams for lunch, but not without a strong suggestion that the new teams eat together. What happened next was entirely predictable to anyone who understood both how obsessive and stubborn Uzumaki could be. Each of the 3 Uzumaki ended up suggesting that their team go to lunch at Ichiraku Ramen and would not take no for an answer. In the early days of the ramen stand this would have posed a problem, there weren't that many seats in the establishment. However, the arrival of the Uzumaki clan had proved a boon to Tucci and his daughter Ayame, as their business grew exponentially with the arrival of the clan, whose obsession for ramen seemed to be genetic. The small stand located in the heart of Konoha had expanded to a 25-table restaurant. On top of that, a 15-table restaurant was open just a 5-minute walk from the Uzumaki clan compound, and 2 small stands closer to the original size of the business had opened elsewhere in the village. Even with 2 restaurants, there was enough demand for ramen from the Uzumaki clan alone that other customers had found it difficult to get served, necessitating the additional stands. Almost overnight, Tucci Ichiraku had become the 2nd wealthiest restaurateur in the city, after only the Akimichi clan. At a table near the back of the restaurant in the center of the village, Naruto and his teammate sat down to their first meal as Team 7. Naruto, to his credit, actually slowed down from his normal blazing fast ramen consumption speed in an attempt to make casual conversation. Results were mixed. The conversation had taken an awkward turn almost as soon as Sakura spoke up. "Uchiha-sama, Uzumaki-sama, I'm looking forward to working with you. Even though I don't come from a clan or even a shinobi heritage, I'll do my best not to be a burden." Sasuke didn't seem to have a problem with this statement, but the same couldn't be said for Naruto. "Sakura, we've been over this in the academy, but now we're teammates as well. I am uncomfortable with people from outside of my clan referring to me like that, please just call me Naruto. But now that you're a gen and your status as the heir of your clan is solidified, I wouldn't want to disrespect your clan. Sakura, please, I'd like to be called Naruto." "Very well, Naruto-sama. So well, it's some progress I suppose," Naruto thought, dropping the subject and digging into his meal once more. What followed was an awkward silence. While Sasuke had been willing to answer and respond to Naruto and Sakura, he wasn't going to be initiating conversations. Naruto poured himself into his meal because he preferred the silence to being addressed so formally by a teammate, and Sakura was still a bit confused by Naruto's stance. It conflicted everything her guild had told her about the clans, and she was worried she had made a bad first impression. Mercifully, it was soon time for the team to head back to the academy to await the arrival of the Jonin and find out who their sensei would be. The wait for the Jonin was on, and the classroom slowly emptied as teams were picked up by their new commanding officers and teachers. Among the 4 teams Naruto and his group of friends were on, the first Jonin to arrive was one Sarutobi Asuma, son of the 3rd Hokage, who arrived to pick up the new Ino Shikacho. Not surprising, Naruto thought, not just 3 future clan heads, but the next iteration of a legendary team. Of course Lord Hokage gave this team his own son as a sensei. As Asuma announced what team he was there to pick up, a red-eyed woman entered the room. Introducing herself as Yuhi Kurenai, she announced that she was there for Team 8, which put a slight frown on Naruto's face. I've never heard of this woman, and the Yuhi aren't a clan to my knowledge. Shino is a clan heir, Karen is the daughter of a current clan head, and Kiba is the son of one. Something isn't right here. Having noticed his frown, Shino answered Naruto's unspoken question. The Yuhi are the Sarutobi clan's most trusted vassals, having served Clan Sarutobi faithfully for several centuries. I am sure that Lord Hokage is familiar with her skills and am confident in Kurenai-sensei's competence. As Asuma and his team departed and Shino, Karen and Kiba made their way down from their seats to follow their new sensei, a 3rd Jonin entered the room. Listen up kids, my name is Shiranui Genma and I'm here for Team 11. Asuke gets to learn from one of the Yondame's personal bodyguards. That's so cool. Naruto was beginning to get impatient at this point but was still more than capable of admiring a member of the famed Hokage Guard platoon when he saw one. Thankfully, Naruto's wait would be over soon. Looking around the room after Genma and his team left, Naruto saw only 2 other teams besides his own still waiting. At that point, the door opened once more and another Jonin walked into the room. Sakura recognized the Jonin in question and exclaimed in shock. Haddock-sama. What are you doing here, sir? Well, I'm here for Team 7. I'd like them to meet me on the roof in 5 minutes. Kakashi then disappeared into a poof of smoke. Naruto could hardly contain his smile, and looking at his teammates he saw a similar expression on Sasuke's face. Haddock Kakashi was not just the head of the Haddock clan. He was a student of the 4th Hokage and arguably the most powerful shinobi of his generation from any village. The opportunity to learn from such a well-known figure was certainly enticing. So without too much though, the 3 members of Team 7 ran out of the room, making a beeline for the stairs to the roof. Well, alright then, why don't we go around the group and introduce ourselves? What would you like us to say, Haddock-sama? Sakura, was it? Do not refer to me like that, Kakashi-sensei is just fine. Seeing an opportunity, Naruto jumped into the conversation with a follow-up question. Hey, sensei, we should all be fairly informal, right? Kakashi turned from Sakura to Naruto and answered the question. I think so, we'll be working very closely together. There will be weeks and even months where you spend more time with us than you do with your own families. Naruto then turned to Sakura. You heard sensei, Sakura, drop the sama and Lord crap. Not just for sensei, but for Sasuke and I as well. Kakashi then turned to Sakura, you refer to them as Naruto-sama and Sasuke-sama. Not just them, sensei. My guild taught me that I should show the proper reverence to all the shinobi clans. Yeah, that's not going to work for us. From now on it's Kakashi-sensei, Naruto, and Sasuke. That's an order. As Sakura came to grips with the new way she'd have to speak to her teammates, the introductions began. Haddock Kakashi liked his dogs, his wife and son, fine literature, and paying tribute to his fallen comrades at the memorial stone. His goals included being a better father to his children than his father was to him and getting a certain colleague to admit defeat in various competitions. Though it should be noted that Naruto, Sakura and Sasuke were all then hit by an incredible wave of killing intent as Kakashi went into great detail about what he would do to them if that second goal should be leaked. Naturally, the 3 genin quickly agreed that even though they didn't know what Kakashi was talking about, they would act as if those challenges annoyed and or bored their sensei. Sakura was the next to go. My name is Haruno Sakura. I like my friends and learning new things. I dislike ninja who look down on me because of my civilian background. There was then a small pause as Sakura let out a sigh and her determination seemed to waver. Finally, she regained her composure and finished her statement. And my goal is to help my guild achieve its goals however I can. Ma Sakura, based on the way you said that it seems like achieving your goal might come at a high price. I'd say that's probably true, sensei. But it's something I don't really want to discuss. While assuring Sakura that that was no problem and prompting one of his other students to go next, the head of the Haddock clan made a mental bookmark on Sakura's introduction. Well, I can think of some clan heads who might like to hear about this little conversation. Naruto was the next to go. His likes were the Uzumaki clan and ramen. The sole dislike he mentioned was the time it took for ramen to cook, and his goal was stated as being the best possible head of the Uzumaki clan and presiding over an era of growth and prosperity for his clan. Finally, Sasuke mentioned that his likes were tomatoes and training. His dislikes were distractions and fangirls, and his dreams of clearing the Uchiha name and settling the conflict in his clan were met with looks of confusion by both Naruto and Sakura, but again Kakashi moved the conversation along, not allowing it to linger on potentially sensitive subjects. This was just an introductory meeting after all. As the team worked together and got closer, they'd feel more comfortable discussing personal matters, but this was neither the appropriate setting nor the occasion for such talks to take place. Team 7's first ever meeting was ended by Kakashi informing his 3 students to meet him at their designated training grounds the next morning at 7 AM sharp, and by strongly suggesting that his students not eat breakfast the next morning, implying they might end up vomiting all over the training field if they did. Immediately after that warning he disappeared via Shushin, leaving 3 very confused and concerned genin behind. And since there are some changes to the canon team assignments, I'll go ahead and recap everything here. The membership of Team 7 is unchanged from canon, though clearly each of them are living very different lives at this point than they are in canon. Kakashi is married to Anko and is head of the Hada clan, they have a son named Obito and another child on the way. Naruto is a redhead and did not grow up alone, but with his clan around him. Sasuke's father is dead, but his mother and Itachi are both alive as has been mentioned. I'll clarify what is known so far about the Uchiha situation later on in this note. Sakura's family is part of a merchant guild that is very aggressive in perusing agreements with shinobi clans, and as we've seen there are some rumors swirling around that. Team 8 is still led by Kurenai, and Shino and Kiba are still members. Hinata has been replaced with Karen. Team Guy and Team 10 are unchanged. The new Team 11 is led by Genma and features Hinata, Sai, and the Uzumaki clan member Daisuke. I had to have a little Naruto Ino moment here, since it's probably my favorite pairing, though Naruto Tenten and Naruto Temari are also strong contenders for that spot. But this is not a Naruto Ino story, and those two will not be acting romantically with each other any further. As both age and take on more clan responsibilities, they'll get a deeper understanding for why they can't be together and accept it. Still, Naruto Ino is a great pairing, and I wanted to have a little moment of it, even if the pairing isn't feasible for the way Konoha and the clans work in this particular story. As for the Uchiha, here are the changes that I've made. They remain centrally located in the village. The plot of land on the outskirts of the village that they were forced to move to in canon was given to the Uzumaki in this story. In part due to them still being located in the village core, the discrimination faced by the Uchiha was not as bad. It still happened, but to a lesser degree. Again, this is not solely due to compound location, but it played a role. It made the clan feel more present and approachable to the average villager. As such, when the idea of a rebellion is brought up, only a small number of Uchiha are swayed, though Fugaku is among them. Mikoto joins with Itachi and Shisui in counteracting the coup. Only those involved in plotting the coup are killed. Mikoto personally kills Fugaku, and Itachi is also involved, along with a small team of other Uchiha clan members personally selected by Mikoto. In present-day Mikoto is the head of the clan, and Itachi is the heir, though there is a faction of the clan that wants to exile Mikoto, Itachi, and all those who took part in the killings. This faction supports bypassing Itachi and handing the clan over to Sasuke. Training Ground 7. Underneath his mask, Hada Kakashi could not help but smile as he watched his cute adorable genin stand in a triangle formation, kunai in hand, surrounding one of his summoning dogs, as the other dogs in the pack tried to kidnap the first. After more than 2 months of D ranks and teamwork training, Naruto, Sakura and Sasuke were acting like single unit. While Kakashi's dogs were clearly holding back, the genin were easily holding their own. Pakken, the dog Team 7 had been assigned to protect, didn't even seem concerned. Deciding he had seen enough, Kakashi dropped down from the tree he had been perched in and began clapping, calling off his pack. I must say, well done you 3. My dear little adorable genin, you don't even look like you've broken into a sweat. Pakken was the first one to react. I know I haven't, these kids have me locked down tight. That was easy, sensei. Naruto added, you should tell the dogs to not hold back as much next time. I could do that, or we could postpone next time until tomorrow. Take a break you 3, we need to have a little chat. Looking over to his summons, he added, you guys are free to go, thank you for your help. No problem. Pakken replied, just remember that you owe us. Yes, I promise no more leaving you guys to babysit Obito while Anko and I go out. Good. That kid loves to pull our tails, it hurts. After the dogs disappeared in a poof of smoke, Sakura turned to her sensei and asked a question on the minds of all 3 genin. Sensei, aren't you running out of things to promise them to get them to help us? Not really. In a tone that clearly conveyed how low his level of concern was, Kakashi continued. I haven't promised anything relating to Anko's snakes yet. There's usually 1 or 2 in the house and oh boy do the dogs not like them. Is it safe for Lady Anko to leave snakes around with little Obito in the house? Kakashi might not have been concerned, but now Sakura clearly was. Of course, while not all members of the Snake Clan are loyal to Anko, the ones that hang around the house are practically devoted to her. If only we could get our two summons to cooperate, we'd have the perfect home security system. Oh, and Sakura, remember what happened the last time you referred to my wife as Lady Anko? As they had been speaking, the four shinobi had been on the move, and by the time Kakashi cracked his joke about security in the Haddock home, they had come to rest under a large tree located in their training ground. Which was good, because the reminder that Anko's reaction to being addressed formally was much more severe than her three teammates had caused Sakura to relive a traumatic experience. So many snakes, she muttered in between shudders, in my bag, in my bed, in my clothes. Yes, well, anyways. Realizing his error, Kakashi quickly tried to reverse course and pull Sakura back to reality. I wanted to let the three of you know that today's teamwork exercise was a test and you passed with flying colors. Team 7 has met my minimum level of expectations for being able to function as a team. I'm now willing to let this team travel out of the village and will be requesting our first C rank mission later this week. Even Sasuke, normally the poster child for keeping cool, couldn't help but grin eagerly, but it was Naruto who actually asked the question all three of them wanted to ask. You mean, no more D ranks? I didn't say that. Again, Kakashi was thankful for the mask, as watching how quickly his three genins' excitement dissipated was just funny. C ranks are great for getting you experience out beyond our walls, but they don't allow for as much time for things like training. If we only did C ranks, we'd hardly ever be in the village, and it would be tougher for you to train. Nods of understanding came from the genin, especially Naruto and Sasuke, who had clan training on top of their team training. We'll start taking the occasional C rank mission, and we'll still do D ranks and teamwork exercises as well. But now that you're at this level, I'd also like to begin focusing on your individual specializations. The only member of the team who did not come from a shinobi background spoke up next. What are we going to be specializing in, sensei? Not unexpected, I suppose, said Sensei reflected before launching into his answer. Well, Sakura. A shinobi's specialties depend on a variety of factors. Team composition, individual strengths and weaknesses, individual interests, and more. As for team composition, Team 7 was commissioned as a heavy assault team. The default for such teams is two ninja who specialize in more direct forms of combat and one who specializes in a support field. After a moment's hesitation, most likely due to a minor panic at finding out she was assigned to an assault team, Sakura spoke again. So who in our team takes each role? A good question. Let's look at each of the three of you and figure that out. Sasuke is an Uchiha. Almost everything about the Uchiha, from their taijutsu style, to their traditional use of ninjutsu, to the Sharingan itself is useful in direct combat. In a vacuum, the Sharingan is also useful from a support sense for things such as ninjutsu, but everything else about the Uchiha clan screams combat. Naruto could likely go either way. The Uzumaki produce both great combat-focused ninja and great support ninja. On the combat side of things, Uzumaki Kenjutsu practices are quite famous and they are known for their mastery of water-style ninjutsu. On the support side of things, most Uzumaki are sensor-type ninja, and good sensors at that, but their Fuinjutsu mastery is both the thing that is most useful from a support standpoint as well as the thing the clan is most famous for overall. Then we have you, Sakura. You don't come from a clan, so we have no secret techniques or Kekai Genkai to help us figure out what you are. But let's look at your strengths and weaknesses. First of all, you have incredible chakra control. Not only is your chakra control the best of your graduating class, but it is the best of any graduate from a non-clan background since the 4th Hokage, and the best of any graduate from a civilian background ever. Just the fact that you were placed in the most advanced class for your age group at the academy, despite your lack of a shinobi background, screams of how high your potential is. Sakura couldn't help but smile at her sensei's praise. She of course knew that she was the weakest of the three, and the fact that she was teamed with a clan heir and the son of a clan head all under the leadership of yet another clan head was not lost on her. Kakashi's praise was just the mental pick-me-up that she needed, at least until he kept talking. It's a good thing your control is so good because your chakra reserves are absolutely pitiful. For the umpteenth time that day, a genin of Team 7 visibly deflated, though Kakashi kept going. Don't get me wrong, by civilian standards your reserves are great, but by shinobi standards they aren't even academy level. So what does that mean, sensei? It means that unless Naruto really wants to lean into the support side of the Uzumaki abilities, you are going to be our support ninja. Fine by me. Naruto spoke next. Don't get me wrong, I am a censor and I do like Fuinjutsu, but it said that my mom's first love was swordplay, so I'd like to focus more on that side of what the clan does, in honor of her. Yes, Uzumaki Kushina was the greatest Kenjutsu user that I've ever personally seen. Her blade looked like it was dancing, truly incredible to behold. That being said, I'm not much for Kenjutsu myself and can't really help you beyond the basics. I take it your clan is teaching you that. The quick nod and confirmation from Naruto was all that Kakashi needed. Good, I'll leave that in the capable hands of the Uzumaki clan and we'll focus on other things. Like ninjutsu? Naruto asked hopefully. Eventually. Kakashi responded, but there are a lot of other things you need to learn first. You are the opposite of Sakura, Naruto. The Uzumaki are known for their large chakra reserves, but even by Uzumaki standards yours are incredible. However, likely due to how large your reserves are, your chakra control is terrible. That's our first priority. We'll also need to work on your stealth and your tactical knowledge. Naruto looked a bit disappointed, but nodded in agreement. Well aware of his Jinchuriki status, the redhead knew exactly why his reserves were so large and his control was so poor. As for Sasuke, your reserves and control are about normal for a genin, but unless you plan to retire before getting promoted, we'll start out by focusing on both of those. Uchiha of course are staples of the police force, but it's also quite common for them to work as assault specialists and assassins. Once your control and reserves are good enough, we'll start working on your ninjutsu. Kakashi then flipped up his headband, revealing his Sharingan, and once you awaken your Sharingan I'll be working with you on that aspect as well. That proclamation finally got the Sasuke to speak up. Is there a reason you'll be working on this with me and not a member of my clan? Yes. Kakashi responded. When Sasuke's body language seemed to be asking go on. Kakashi continued. You are of course free to seek out a member of your clan to work on this stuff with you on your own time, but the village wishes to remain neutral among the Uchiha factions, so I will be your official Sharingan instructor as far as the village is concerned. And that way the village can't be said to be favoring either side. Sasuke said, the logic behind Kakashi's appointment as his designated Sharingan teacher suddenly making sense. There was a brief pause in the conversation, as if Naruto, Sakura and Kakashi were expecting Sasuke to continue speaking, but when it was clear that Sasuke considered the matter settled, Kakashi turned to the sole kunoichi in the group. So with Naruto and Sasuke confirmed as our combat specialists, you'll be our support ninja, Sakura. What exactly will I be doing, sensei? Well, for right now it's a bit of a moot point. Your reserves are too low to do much of anything. We'll be focusing on raising your chakra reserves, stamina, strength, and taijutsu in training for now. Once those reach acceptable levels, more doors will open for you. I'd recommend you look into either medical ninjutsu or jinjutsu. Either one will work for your team, so it's really your choice. If you chose jinjutsu, I'll be able to help you with the basics, but given that I primarily rely on my Sharingan for jinjutsu, I'm not the best person to teach you anything past genin level. For medical ninjutsu I won't be much use at all, though I'll certainly be able to help you connect with someone who can teach you. If that's the case, then in our team training hours I'll work on your ninjutsu and taijutsu. Thank you for the assessment, sensei. Sakura responded, bowing as she spoke. She might have gotten a little less formal with clan shinobi, but the habits her guild ingrained into her from a young age were hard to break. When do I need to let you know my decision by? Like I said, it's a moot point until your reserves are bigger, so you'll have plenty of time. The only thing I'll say is that I want you to be at least working on one of your areas before I enter U3 in the Chunin exams. After all, there will a lot of pressure on this team to perform. The three of you are from prominent backgrounds. Naruto will be the head of the Uzumaki one day, and they will be wanting to see a good showing from him. Sasuke is the son of Lady Mikoto, and as a member of the head family of the Uchiha, there will be pressure on him as well. Sakura, the Haruno Merchant Guild, has been wanting to work with shinobi for generations. A good performance from you could send a positive message to the clans. Finally, I'm a clan head myself and your performance could impact my reputation. But we're a ways away from that still. You've only even been genin for 2 months. No need to stress over that right now. Since all three of you need to work on either your reserves, control, or both, for now let's focus on working on our chakra. Kakashi then stood up and started walking up the trunk of the tree Team 7 was sitting under, using chakra to stick his feet to the bar. And we'll start by getting the three of you to be able to do this. Looking back down at his students, Kakashi was pleased. The little talk they had seemed to have both re-energized and motivated them. Each now had clear goals for their training, and the prospect of being allowed to go for promotion was dangling in front of them like a worm on a fishing line. As he hopped down to the ground and began to explain the process of using chakra to climb the tree, Kakashi could only think back to happier times. And as he pushed those thoughts from his mind to focus on the present, 2 last words stuck in his head. Abido. Rin. Uzumaki clan compound training fields. The sound of wooden training swords bashing against each other echoed throughout the training fields as the Uzumaki clan's 4 genin honed their kenjutsu skills under the clan's foremost kenjutsu user, Uzumaki Kazumi. Kazumu's daughter, Tenten, was easily the most advanced of the 4 genin. She was a year older than the other three and thus had an extra year of training under her belt. Additionally, she had decided to prioritize her Kenjutsu studies. As such, while she was holding pace on Fuinjutsu largely due to her mother's insistence on practicing the sealing arts, her ninjutsu studies were suffering. She was currently sparring against not one, but two Narutos, the original and a shadow clone. Naruto was also wanting to specialize in Kenjutsu, though being the future clan head his skills were required to be a bit more balanced than Tenten, and he couldn't spend quite as much time practicing his swordsmanship. Nearby, the other two genin, Karen and Daisuke, were sparring. Neither planned to specialize in Kenjutsu, and thus their spar was much less entertaining to watch, as neither was quite as far along in their sword skills as Naruto and Tenten. The two Narutos were working in close collaboration, trying to catch Tenten off guard. To do this, they were employing a highly aggressive style, constantly on the attack. As soon as one's attack lost momentum they jumped away, only for the other Naruto to immediately jump in with an attack of their own. Tenten for her part seemed quite content to just let the Narutos expend their energy. She was fighting incredibly defensively, focusing on parrying Naruto's attacks rather than trying to attack herself. It was almost as if she was biding her time, waiting for a Naruto to make a mistake. And she didn't have to wait all that long. As the original Naruto jumped away, the clone Naruto charged in. However, the clone hit a rock on the way. At the high speed that it was moving, this was enough to knock it ever so slightly off balance. Sensing her moment, Tenten finally attacked. Keeping her stance the same, she struck out in one fast motion, dispelling the clone with her wooden blade. This caused the original Naruto to hesitate, as if pondering his next move. That moment's hesitation was all Tenten needed. Her stance changed, as did her grip on her blade, and she launched forward, finally moving. Naruto tried to block, but his defenses were nowhere near those of Tenten. He was very quickly disarmed, and with a wooden blade held up against his chest, he surrendered. As Tenten and Naruto were recovering from their fight, the spar between Karen and Daisuke was coming to an end as well. For most of this fight, Karen had been practically dancing around Daisuke, looking almost like a ballerina with a blade. Daisuke had been unable to land a hit. However, Karen eventually found herself in an awkward position, her legs twisted around at a weird angle. When that happened, the fight was over. Daisuke was easily able to score enough hits to be declared the winner. When all four genin were resting, Kazuma approached them to debrief. "Well done you four. I'm seeing more and more progress from you every time we have Kenjutsu training. As usual, let's dig into the feedback." Kazuma then turned to Karen. "Karen, I really do think that the Makashi form suits you well. However, you need to go back and drill your stances. You were winning until your feet got mixed up and that error is what cost you the match. Until we next meet I want you to focus on going back through the basic stances and katas of the Makashi form, paying special attention to your footwork." "Of course, Kazuma-sensei. Thank you for your instruction." Next, Kazuma turned to Daisuke's opponent. The Naiman form is neither fancy nor flashy, and for that reason not many seem to want to learn it. But it is a form that takes the best elements of each of the flashier styles and combines them into one. I commend you for sticking with it, Daisuke. You have the basics down, it's time to start working on some combinations. I know your mother has some Kenjutsu scrolls in her possession, you should ask her if you can look at them. They should help you take the next step forward. "I'll do that, thank you sensei." But that said, Kazuma turned to the two genin who were wanting to specialize in Kenjutsu. "Lord Naruto, you are making good progress with the Iteru form. It is a very demanding form, but with your ability to spam shadow clones and high even by Uzumaki level chakra reserves, you have the potential to turn what is already one of the more aggressive of our Kenjutsu forms into something truly incredible. However, as you saw today, the Iteru form is not without its flaws. It has almost no defensive stances or techniques. The minute your attacks lose steam, there is little you can do to regain the advantage. The challenge you will have, heck the challenge every master of the Iteru form has, is to find some sort of defense. We'll work on that in our lesson tomorrow." "Of course, sensei." Finally, Kazuma turned to his most experienced student, Tenten. "If you'll permit me to speak as a father instead of as the jonin in charge of training our academy students in genin and swordplay, I could not be more proud of you, Tenten." Tenten protested, clearly embarrassed. In all seriousness, Kazuma moved on, sparing his daughter further embarrassment. Shenso is not an easy form to master either. Staying grounded and highly defensive before attacking unexpectedly. That transition from only defense to all-out offense has to happen in an instant or all is lost. You continue to improve in this area, as you showed today in fighting two opponents. Great job. We'll work on further refining your stances tomorrow. Now then, Kazuma said, addressing all four of his students. There's just one last thing I need you four to do before I dismiss you for the day. What's that? Help me with them. Looking behind them, the four Uzumaki genin saw the Uzumaki Academy students arrive for their Kenjutsu lesson. Before any of the genin were able to back out, Kazumu spoke again. One of the best ways to learn is to teach. You all remember the Shaicho form that we teach to beginners. Lord Naruto, take the most advanced students. Karen, Daisuke, you take the middle group. Tenten, as the most advanced of the genin, you should take the beginners. Doing as instructed, the four genin put all the academy students through a series of light warm-up exercises and then divided the students into groups. The first-year students went with Tenten, who would demonstrate a stance of the Shaicho form and make all the students hold it while she walked around and offered feedback and correction. Parent took the second and third-year students, while Daisuke took years 4 and 5, and Naruto took the students in their final year. Pairing them off into spars with their classmates. Izumu looked on approvingly, paying close attention to make sure that neither teacher nor student made a mistake. Still, one thing stood out in his mind. It had been Naruto who had first greeted the academy students, Naruto who had led them through warm-ups, and Naruto who had divided them into groups and sent them with their instructors. No one had asked him or prompted him to do that, he just did so. Similarly, no student questioned Naruto, they just followed him. It seems you have the makings of a great leader, Naruto-sama. You command the loyalty and respect of not only your generation, but those younger than you. I have no doubt that you'll lead our clan to glory once again. Izumu stayed silent through the hour-long lesson, allowing his genin students to teach and supervise his academy-age students as he mentally contemplated their shared future. And, as things stand at the time of writing this outline featuring snippets and slices of life for Naruto and the Uzumaki, we'll run through chapter 9, with a more coherent story arc revolving around the Chunin exams beginning in chapter 10. I wanted to dive a bit into Uzumaki Kenjutsu. With Tenten as a member of the clan, she seems to be a natural fit for the best sword user of the next generation. I've based Uzumaki Kenjutsu on the established forms of lightsaber combat in Star Wars, where the Jedi have 7 different forms and the Sith have a minimum of 1 unique form on top of the 7 Jedi forms. At least in Legends, not sure if the Sith form is canon or not. If you'd like more information about the inspiration for Uzumaki Kenjutsu here, check out the Wikipedia article titled Lightsaber Combat. Here's a high-level rundown of the forms mentioned so far in this story. Form 1. Shaicho. Wikipedia describes Shaicho as being popular among Jedi Padawans. For the purposes of our story, this is the style that Uzumaki clan members are taught in the academy. Form 2. Makashi. Makashi is being described as being elegant and ballet-like. Perfect for one-on-one duels. Perrin is learning this style. Form 4. Ateru. Ateru is said to be fast and aggressive. Naruto is learning this style right now. I envision Naruto really wanting to specialize in Kenjutsu, but ultimately the responsibility of being clan head, making him unable to truly master multiple styles. He needs to be good at Kenjutsu, Fuinjutsu, and water-style ninjutsu, the clan's 3 specialties. Form 5. Shen Gemso. There are 2 variants of Form 5, Shen and Gemso. However, both forms are similar in that they are said to be demanding due to their requirement of quick transitions from dedicated defensive stances to all-out attacks. For the purposes of this story I have unified the 2 variants into just one form, called Shenso. Tenten is learning this style right now. She's going to be the most Kenjutsu-focused of the 4 Uzumaki genin. I envision her focusing primarily on it while just doing the required minimum for the clan and ninjutsu, mirroring canon where she can use ninjutsu but hardly ever does, and just slightly more than that in Fuinjutsu. Form 6. Naiman. Naiman is a well-balanced form of combat that is said to be easy to learn. Daisuke is learning this style. In Star Wars, there are also 2 other regular forms, 3 and 7. I'm definitely pulling Form 3 into this Naruto story as well. It's just that we haven't seen anyone use it yet, so there hasn't really been a reason to bring it up. Again, see that Wikipedia article if you want to learn more. I'm undecided on if I want to bring in from Vi or any other combat styles over. In Star Wars, Form Vi is considered highly dangerous for Jedi to use because it is super aggressive and that has dark side implications. Only Mace-M Fing Windu seems to be able to use it effectively, and even then, only because he made a slightly less aggressive variant. I think it would be cool if Kushina had been a practitioner of this rare hyper-aggressive form, but I'm unsure how to map this style might cause you to fall to the dark side thing to Naruto, so that's the main reason I'm unsure on its use here. Forms 1 to 6 are definitely present in Uzumaki Kenjutsu, everything else is up in the air. So that's a brief overview of what Uzumaki Kenjutsu is like so far. It was fun to pull from Star Wars and create a lore around the sword side of the Uzumaki. Most stories about the Uzumaki that I have seen here on FF tend to focus on the Fuinjutsu side of things, and that's great too, but it was cool to delve into a side of the clan that we know existed but doesn't seem to have been explored as much. There is also a dive of sorts into Uzumaki Fuinjutsu coming up too, so if you like this then please look forward to that. The sun was just starting to set as Naruto walked through the streets of Konoha. At this time of day the village's roads and pathways were crowded with people on their way to or from the markets, restaurants, or various shops. It was times like these where Naruto truly got to interact with the average villager, and Naruto always paid careful attention to how the villagers reacted to his presence. The majority left him alone, which is to say they treated him like any other villager. If he initiated some sort of reaction they would respond, but they didn't go out of their way to interact with him. He was just another person in a stream of people out on the streets. The visibly sizable minority treated Naruto in a way that was appropriate for his standing. Shopkeepers especially would bow to him or call out to Uzumaki-sama as he walked by. Naruto dutifully waved or offered a few kind words, though he usually had to weasel out of one or two conversations where an overzealous shopkeeper walked up to him and tried to entice him to enter their store with special deals or free samples. The third type of reaction that Naruto got was not one he had noticed at first, he had been too young and his shinobi skills not honed enough. But by the time he was an upper-level academy student he had noticed it. This reaction first came to Naruto's attention based on the way older members of the clan would react when he was with them. Occasionally, the Jonin or Chunin Uzumaki he walked with would hurry him along or put themselves between him and a villager. It was very subtle, but Naruto had noticed that older clan members seemed overprotective of him at times when outside of the clan compound. He followed their eyes, and that's how he noticed the third type of reaction from the villagers. Sometimes it was a look of fear, the villagers were terrified that Naruto was there. Other times it was a glare. If looks could kill, Naruto would be dead several times over. At first, Naruto the academy student had been unable to figure out why this third type of reaction occurred. By the time of his graduation, he had put two and two together. Naruto was born on the night the Kyuubi no Kitsune broke free from his mother's containment and attacked the village. The Kyuubi's chakra was so great and so potent that only Uzumaki clan members, themselves having considerably higher chakra reserves than other clans, could serve as its Jinchuriki, so the Yondaime Hokage had sealed the Kyuubi inside the nearest Uzumaki, Naruto. The villagers that looked at Naruto in fear or hatred did not see Naruto the person, Naruto the ninja, or Naruto the rightful ruler of clan Uzumaki. They didn't even see him as the Kyuubi's jailer. When they looked at him, they didn't see Naruto at all, they saw the Kyuubi itself. Thankfully, the number of people who had this reaction to Naruto was relatively small. Between the fact that he had been whisked away to the Uzumaki clan compound within minutes of becoming a Jinchuriki, the fact that it had not been until years later that he had left the compound and his hair had changed color from blonde to Uzumaki red in that time. And the Sandaime's law condemning anyone who spoke of Naruto's Jinchuriki status to death, only a small few non-shinobi knew what Naruto contained. So as Naruto walked through the streets he was largely left to his own devices, with the occasional person addressing him, and even rarer was a time when Naruto would catch a villager subtly turning from him in fear or glaring at him. As Naruto came to a three-way intersection he spotted pink hair moving through the crowd coming from the opposite direction. Sakura appeared shortly after, meeting him in the middle. After a quick exchange of greetings they turned down the third path, heading towards their destination. Before too long the crowds began to thin out as the pair of teammates left the crowded central district of Konoha behind. Eventually, they turned onto another street. Hanging over said street was a wooden arch emblazoned with a lattice-like pattern. They had entered the Haddock district. Rather than an enclosed compound, some clans preferred open districts. In such districts outsiders were often allowed to live or own businesses in these areas, but would have to pay more money to do so than a member of the controlling clan would. The streets of the Haddock district were largely empty. The clan had been almost completely wiped out by the Third Shinobi War, and without the members of the Haddock clan to support them, many businesses in the district had gone under. Still, hope remained for the district, as it did for the clan in general, and before too long Naruto and Sakura stood in front of the most visible manifestation of that hope. A large, but not gigantic, house. The traditional home of the head of the Haddock clan. Approaching the home they found that the front door was slightly cracked open, with Kakashi's dog Pakin lounging around on the front porch. "Naruto, Sakura," Pakin said, acknowledging each of the arrivals as he slowly got up. Sakura was the one who responded, "Hi Pakin, we aren't late are we?" "Nope," Pakin said, pushing the front door fully open before entering the house, "You're just in time." Sakura and Naruto followed the dog into the home, closing the door behind them. Kakashi's home was an interesting mix of the more Spartan upbringing and preferences of the lord and lady of Clan Haddock, combined with the opulence that would be expected and required of clan heads. A small few rooms were quite luxurious, but these were largely used for entertaining guests and putting on a proper show of glamour and style that one would expect of people of Kakashi and Anko's standing. However, the further one retreated into the Haddock Manor, the more the real personalities of its occupants shone through, luxury giving way to plain, simple, and at times almost minimalist furnishing. Appropriate for a pair of orphans that had lived so much of their lives consumed by personal demons, only to have the power and prestige of leading a clan unexpectedly thrust onto them. The private living room was one such plain and simple rooms. All the expected furniture was there, but was considerably less stylish than those in the larger living room used for hosting guests and outsiders. While technically outsiders, Team 7 were exempt from that and got to see the normal lives of the Haddock family. In the private living room, on a reclining chair sat Haddock Anko, Kakashi's wife. A feared Tobiketsu Jonin who had made her name in the village's torture and interrogation department, she looked nothing like the feared interrogator as she relaxed, wearing baggy clothing and with a swollen stomach due to her condition, 7 months pregnant. On the floor not too far away sat her first child. Haddock Obito. Just 3 years old, the heir to the Haddock clan was currently preoccupied by showing his favorite toys to Naruto and Sakura's other teammate. It seemed Sasuke had beaten them to their destination. Anko's face lit up when she saw her other guests enter the room. "Gaki, Pinky, you made it just in time. I think Squirt was getting lonely playing with Obito-chan by himself." From the kitchen, next to the living room, Kakashi's voice called out. "Ah Naruto, Sakura, welcome. I'm just putting the finishing touches on dinner, it should be ready shortly." After roughly 10 minutes of conversation and playing with Obito, another of Kakashi's dogs, Bull, came in to inform the group that dinner was ready and the 3 genin moved quickly to assist. Sasuke went to set the table while Sakura saw to Obito and Naruto went to assist Anko, much to her protests. And so in a matter of moments everyone was seated and the current generation of Team 7's team dinner began. Conversation was lively, though the host and team sensei was largely silent. Too consumed by the nostalgia of Team 7 dinners, Kakashi's mind wandered back to simpler times when him, Rin Nahara and Obito Uchiha dined with their sensei and his wife, Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. Kakashi was suddenly pulled from his musings by a sharp and well-placed under-the-table kick from his wife. "Huh?" Naruto quickly repeated the question he had been asking, the reason Anko had forcefully brought Kakashi back to reality. "Have you and Anko learned if your second kid will be a boy or a girl, sensei?" "Oh, yes we have. We've known for a couple months now." "What? And you haven't told us?" Sakura seemed upset. Well you see it's an old Haddock clan tradition to not reveal the gender of a child until after the child is born. We didn't tell you about Obito's gender did we?" What Kakashi said was certainly plausible, many clans had seemingly odd traditions and rituals around birth. However, based on how he was sheepishly rubbing the back of his head, the genin of Team 7 couldn't tell if Kakashi was telling them the truth. "We didn't know you back when Obito was born," Sasuke quickly pointed out. "Heck, Anko was pregnant with kid 2 before we met you," Naruto added. "Oh you're right," Kakashi sheepishly responded. Meanwhile, Anko could barely hold back her laughter. Thankfully for Kakashi, Sakura threw him a metaphorical bone and decided to change the subject. "Sensei, you remember a couple of months ago when we talked about shinobi skills that I might be able to specialize in?" "Yes, of course. And you remember how you asked me to take some time and consider support fields like medical ninjutsu and jinjutsu?" "Yes. I've made my decision." "Oh?" By this point all eyes were on Sakura except for Obito, who was still too young to understand what exactly was going on. "I've decided I'd like to prioritize medical ninjutsu. I want to become a great medical ninja, but I was hoping you'd still teach me some jinjutsu as well." "Of course, I'm happy to hear that you have made your decision. I'm also pleased with how hard you have all been training the last couple of months. Your chakra reserves and control have improved. I'll be happy to start working with you on jinjutsu at our next meeting." "Great." Sakura was clearly excited to get to work. "I'm excited to get started tomorrow." "No, not tomorrow. You all have the day off. The Uchiha requested Sasuke be available for a clan thing and Anko has a doctor's appointment that I would very much like to be at on top of a couple of meetings in my role as a clan head." Seeing Sakura's disappointment, Kakashi then added. "But if you want to get started with medical ninjutsu I'd recommend you seek out Uzumaki Shizune. She's the apprentice of Lady Tsunade and outside of Tsunade herself is probably the best medic in the village." Hearing that her recommended teacher was in Uzumaki, Sakura's eyes turned to Naruto, an unspoken question clearly visible in them. "Yeah, I'll ask her tonight and send a clone to let you know." Naruto yielded, getting a big smile from his pink-haired teammate in return. "I think she's been giving Karen and a couple of others a rundown on medical stuff in the mornings anyways, so there's a good chance she'll say yes." Later that night. With little Obito finally sleeping peacefully in his bed, Kakashi made the short walk from his son and heir's bedroom to his own. Before too long he had finished preparing for bed and collapsed into his own comfortable sleeping position. Before sleep could claim him, he felt the familiar motions of the mattress as his wife climbed in beside him, as her pregnant belly nestled against his back and one of her arms draped over him. "You okay, Kakashi? You seemed kinda out of it while talking with the brats at dinner." Shifting onto his back, Kakashi began to gently rub his hand on Anko's stomach, sensing the chakra of the life form he had helped create growing inside her. "After the darkness that had claimed me for so many years, I never thought I'd experience that feeling again." The team dinner. "I felt like I was Minato-sensei looking over at Rin, Obito, and I even saw Kushina when she was pregnant with Naruto in your place, but that never happened." Rin and Obito were both gone by that point. It was both incredibly nostalgic and incredibly weird. Anko had been slowly drifting off to sleep herself, but Kakashi's rather serious answer to what she had thought a trivial question woke her back up. "It's understandable, I suppose, when you've been through as much shit as you and I both have, to find parallels in the few moments of happiness. I guess so. And I am glad those moments of happiness have been increasing the last few years. I shudder to think where I'd be if I hadn't finally accepted Uzumaki Yoshide's invitation to visit the Uzumaki compound. It still took a few years before I acted on anything, but in a lot of ways that conversation set me straight, saved me from my darkness. Saved us from both our personal darkness." Anko said, leaning forward to kiss Kakashi's cheek as she did. "Don't forget how marrying you has made my life so much better as well, and not just because the villagers stopped looking at me like a traitor. I could have never imagined this life for myself back after the snake bastard betrayed me. And to be free of his curse seal too. I guess we really do owe quite the debt to the Uzumaki, huh?" "Ah." A simple verbal agreement from Kakashi was the last verbal communication between them before exhaustion finally claimed the heavily pregnant Anko. Kakashi stayed awake for a while still, pondering all the changes in his life over the past decade. Eventually though, even the legendary copy ninja Haddock Kakashi fell victim to the need for sleep, and peace reigned supreme in the Haddock Manor and through the largely empty district. The next morning. The various shinobi clans of Konoha tended to organize their land holdings within the village in one of three ways. Most clans opted for a district, allowing non-clan members to work or live on their land, and often it was difficult to tell when one was on general village streets or on streets controlled by one of the clans. The Haddock, Akimichi, Sarutobi, and Yamanka were among the clans to live this way. Then, there were semi-open districts. Again, much of the land was left open to outsiders, but with sections of the land secured and cloistered away for the exclusive and private use of the clan. Often for some specific use, such as the Inyazuka's dogs or the Nara's pharmaceutical practices. Very few clans had so-called closed compounds, where the lands controlled by the clan were walled off and gated and outsiders generally prevented from living or working on the land. Haruno Sakura had been encouraged to study the clans of Konoha for her whole life and could only think of three clans who had their lands configured in such a way. The Hyuga, the Uchiha, and the Uzumaki. Such were the thoughts of a very sleepy Sakura as she stood outside the main entrance gate to the Uzumaki clan compound. True to his word, Naruto had followed up with his clanswoman Shizune the night before and sent word to Sakura. Shizune was willing to meet with Sakura, provided Sakura was willing to start at 6 a.m. Thus at 5:45 Sakura had reached the gates and checked in with the guard on duty and Uzumaki Jonin that Sakura was not familiar with. After inspecting her identification documents, confirming her identity, and confirming why Sakura was asking permission to enter the Uzumaki compound at such an early hour, the guard finally relented, allowing Sakura into the compound and making a shadow clone to escort her to Shizune. After a short walk Sakura easily spotted Shizune. The few Uzumaki clan members who did not possess the trademark red hair really stood out. Shizune was supervising Sakura's former academy classmate Karen and another Uzumaki girl that Sakura did not know. As Sakura got closer, she could see that the two girls' hands were glowing green and that they seemed to be holding their hands over some seemingly dead fish. Seeing Sakura approach, Shizune stood and greeted her. "Hello there, you must be Sakura, my name is Uzumaki Shizune. It's an honor to be given the opportunity to teach one of Naruto-sama's teammates and Haddock-sama's students. Thank you for coming so early." "The honor is all mine, Shizune-sensei, to be able to learn medical ninjutsu from an apprentice of Lady Tsunade is a rare privilege. Of course, I'm always happy to help aspiring med nins. Lord Naruto told me that you know Karen already." Karen broke away from focusing on the fish to offer a quick wave to her former classmate, which Sakura reciprocated. "And allow me to introduce my daughter, Tenten." Tenten looked up and gave Sakura a polite nod, but quickly pivoted her focus back to her own fish. Turning her attention back to the one present Uzumaki she had previously known, Sakura spoke again. "I didn't know you were also interested in medical ninjutsu, Karen." "Just a little bit," Karen responded. "You know me, Fuinjutsu is where my passion lies. I don't want to become a doctor or anything like that, just some basic medical skills to help my team. I'm not actually interested in medical stuff at all. Tenten said, joining the conversation, but my team is leaving on a border patrol mission in a couple of days, and mom insisted I at least learn the mystic palm. I can't help it. Shizune said, defending herself. It's a mother's job to worry about her children, you'll all learn that in time. Besides, Shizune pivoted the conversation, the fact that I'm even teaching you this at all is a testament to just how hard you've worked, Tenten. Even 6 months ago your chakra control wasn't good enough for you to be able to learn this technique. Your father and I are extremely proud of you. Mom Tenten was clearly embarrassed at being praised in public, but Shizune decided to turn the embarrassment factor up to another level. You're growing up so fast, it makes me miss that day where a little 5-year-old redhead came up to me and asked if I was going to be her cousin, despite the fact that her father and I weren't even dating yet. Tenten's face was now bright red, matching her hair color. Sakura didn't want to say anything, but she was clearly curious, which caused Tenten to launch into an explanation. I'm adopted. I don't know who my birth parents were. Dad adopted me the day before my 5th birthday and started dating mom shortly after. Obviously it worked out since they are married and I have siblings now. I would have never guessed you were adopted. Sakura responded, your hair makes you look like an Uzumaki. Just because I wasn't born into the clan doesn't change the fact that the Uzumaki gave me a family, home, and sense of belonging. Tenten responded, sidestepping discussing the adoption ritual in the process, I love my clan. Wanting to let Tenten focus on reviving the fish, Shizune stepped into the conversation, keeping Sakura occupied. Well, you've heard that neither of my other students actually wants to be a medic, so their training is quite a bit lighter than what you are going to be doing, Sakura. I hope you're ready. This won't be easy, but if you succeed I might even recommend you to Tsunade Shishu. Shizune then pulled out a scroll and unsealed several thick books on subjects like human anatomy. Normally I'd only give someone 1 week to memorize these books like Lady Tsunade did with me, Shizune said, getting a surprised look from Sakura, but since you have team training and missions as well and can't fully devote your time to the study of medical ninjutsu, I'll give you 2 weeks. Now, come over here and I'll show you how to do the mystic palm jutsu. Shizune got Sakura seated at her own mat and walked her through the technique, all while also giving feedback to Karen and Tenten. It didn't take long before Tenten successfully revived the fish, depositing it in a nearby pond. When her daughter finished celebrating, Shizune spoke up again. I know you didn't want to learn that jutsu, but thank you for doing so, dear. As your mother I feel much more at ease about you going on missions knowing that you can now heal yourself and your teammates. Ultimately your father and I love you and just want you to come back to us safely. Mom Tenten was once again embarrassed, but made Shizune's morning when she meekly got out I love you too, so much. Shortly thereafter Tenten and Karen departed for the day, each off to their individual team training, while Sakura, who had the whole day off of training, had decided that she'd stay as long as Shizune was able to continue to make time for her. Once Sakura was successfully able to get a green glow around her hands, a fish was shoved in front of her, along with instructions to revive it and a warning that it would take time. Tenten had been doing this for 3 hours every morning for 2 weeks before successfully reviving the fish. Karen, who had better chakra control and was a better natural fit for medical ninjutsu, had been working on it for just over a week and still had no luck. Filled with determination, Haruno Sakura got to work on her first of what would be many unsuccessful attempts to revive a fish, her first step on her journey to become a medic. And just a clarification here. It's mentioned earlier in the story, but I felt the need to put it here as a reminder. Naruto does not know who his father is, only his mother. Minato and Kushina's relationship was largely a secret, which mirrors canon, and very few people outside of the adult Uzumaki who were in Konoha when they died knew of their relationship. Hokage, Sannin, elders, those sorts of people know, but the average rank and file Konoha jonin is unaware. To most, Naruto is just Kushina's son. Sandaime decided to keep Naruto's heritage a secret to protect him from Minato's enemies. The Uzumaki clan are just thankful to have won custody of the boy. We saw Danzo argue against that way back in chapter 1 and agree to keep his paternal heritage classified. As the newest clan in the village and a somewhat unknown entity, they decide to just take the small victory of getting Naruto and not push further. So Uzumaki old enough to remember Kushina know that Minato is Naruto's father, those who were too young or weren't yet born don't. But the Sandaime's law prevents even Yoshide from revealing Naruto's parentage. Still, while his hair may be red now, many of his facial features still come directly from Minato, and I'd imagine that includes how similar his hairstyle is. One would think that at some point, someone who doesn't know Naruto's father's identity would notice how similar Naruto looks to the Yondaime and start to put 2 and 2 together. He's still a rookie genin. In canon it would be another 3 years or so until Naruto learns either of his parents' identity. plenty of time for that to happen. Uzumaki Yoshide strode through the streets of Konoha, flanked as he so often was by Kazumi, who was serving as his bodyguard for the day. Seeing a clan head approaching, most of the people in the streets got out of his way. Some stopped to bow to and greet him, which usually prompted either a cheerful or polite response from the regent of the Uzumaki clan. Rounding a corner, the only indication that the pair of Uzumaki had stepped into the Inyazuka district was the greatly increased number of ninkin present. Yoshide continued to walk through the Inyazuka district until he reached a gate. The Inyazuka employed a hybrid system for their land. Roughly one-third of the land was laid out in the common open-style district where non-Inyazuka could live and work, paying rent to the clan. The majority of the land, however, was kept behind walls and gates. So at the gate, Yoshide had to go through what had, after more than a decade as clan regent, become an all-too-familiar routine. Every clan had roughly the same security checks for visiting diplomats and clan heads. First, Inyazuka guards took his ID, confirmed his identity, and confirmed that he was on the list of village figures invited to a meeting by their clan head, Inyazuka Tsume. Then, they confirmed that he was allowed to bring a bodyguard and took Kazumu's ID as well. Then they did a basic pat-down of both Yoshide and Kazumi, looking for weapons. Of course, both shinobi had several weapons on them, just not plainly hidden. If the Inyazuka had actually been thorough in their search, they would have found many weapons, but for fellow Konoha clans, the village standard was just a cursory search, more an act than a real attempt to find anything. Then, the guards reminded Kazumi that he was only allowed to bring 2 weapons to the meeting, and that both must be visible at all times, so Yoshide's bodyguard revealed his katana and a short sword, both of which remained in their sheaths. Finally, the Inyazuka guards tried to dispel any genjutsu or henge that might be in use. Of course Yoshide and Kazumi were using no such techniques. This was all just an elaborate ceremony from a long-dead age. With all their checks done, the guards opened the gates, and Yoshide and Kazumi were escorted to the building where the meeting was to be held. There they went through the entire routine a second time with a new set of guards, before they were finally escorted inside and shown to the meeting room. The Uzumaki were not the first to arrive, and the room was about half full. Yoshide took his seat at the table, while Kazumi leaned against the wall behind his charge, mimicking the behavior of the other bodyguards. Taking the tea that was offered to him, Kazumi took out a small packet and poured the contents into the tea, cancelling out any poisons that might be present in exchange for having a slight negative impact on the taste. Yoshide had not actually been worried about poison, this was just the standard diplomatic ceremony. These customs for diplomatic meetings between clans originated in the Warring States period, where even clans that were nominally allied to each other would use these kinds of meetings as cover for assassination attempts and kidnappings. In the modern village era, such rituals were no longer needed among Konoha's clans, but the routines were kept in place, if only to allow clans to practice for the rare occasion when they did host foreign clans and would need to really follow these procedures. Over the next several minutes the room filled up, culminating when in her capacity as host the lady of the Inyazuka was the last to arrive, sitting at the table's head. Besides Tsume and Yoshide, many other clan heads were present, including Aburame Shibi, Akimichi Choza, Hada Kakashi, Hyuga Hiyashi, Nara Shikaku, Ichiha Mikoto, and Yamanaka Inoichi, among others. Also present was the Sandaime Hokage's youngest son, Sarutobi Asuma. Opening the meeting, Tsume demonstrated just why the Inyazuka were not known as diplomats. No offense to you Asuma, but your old man needs to give up the hat, he's going senile, and it's starting to have a negative impact. Everyone here loves Hokage-sama, but it's clear that he never should have come out of retirement after the Yondaime's death. He's ceded more and more of his power, and not to us, but to the civilians and elders. We need a fresh face, a Godime Hokage, to restore the authority of the office and the clans. Thankfully, having been around Inyazuka clan members long enough to become accustomed to their brash and blunt way of speaking that lacked any sense of tact, Asuma took no offense. The Sarutobi clan felt that their longtime head needed to retire as well. In fact, just recently the Sarutobi elders had been able to convince Hiruzen to step down as clan head. Discussions about who would be the next permanent head of the Sarutobi clan were ongoing, but Asuma had been sent to this meeting with the authority to speak as if he was the clan head. With Asuma and the Sarutobi seemingly in agreement about dethroning their longtime leader, the other clan heads breathed a sigh of relief. Everyone in the room agreed that it was best not only for the clans, but for Hiruzen himself, if he retired. Aburame Shibi was the next to speak. It would be best if we decided on a successor who would go forward and volunteer to take over for Sandaime-sama. That's because he has long expressed his desire to name a successor, and if we choose that person, it will prevent disagreeable figures from having any influence on the selection process. The village elders and a couple of Konoha's more contrarian clans did not need to be named for everyone to understand what Shibi meant, so the discussion then turned to possible candidates. While both were certainly good enough to become Hokage, both Hyuga Hiyashi and Nara Shikaku were dismissed out of hand, much to the Nara clan head's relief. The Ashi would be considered too controversial, as the Hyuga had just as many enemies in the village as they did friends, and it was generally agreed that Shikaku was best suited to continue as the Jonin commander. Kakashi's name was brought up, but Shibi spoke up to point out that while Kakashi might be a good candidate for the Rakudame, he was too busy restoring his own clan to be able to serve as Godame. Additionally, while his sensei Namikaze Minato might have been made Hokage at 24, younger than Kakashi's current age, there had been extenuating circumstances around his appointment. Kakashi himself quashed any thoughts of him taking over, stating that he had no interest in the position. Having come to the meeting with a preferred candidate in mind, Yoshide was the next to speak. I think the village could use the return of a Senju Hokage. All eyes turned to the one clan head who had not yet spoken. Senju Tsunade. Fuck you. She spat out, it's already your fault that I moved back to Konoha. Yoshide, it's your fault I had to become a clan head. Now you want me to become Hokage. No. Fuck you. Lady Tsunade, Yoshide began, offering a mock bow. I accept that you can blame me for getting you to return to the village all those years ago, but I think that if anything is to blame for you remaining here permanently and becoming a clan head, that would be your love of fine spirits. Blame the sake. Many snickers and chuckles were heard around the room as Tsunade stewed in anger. Rumor had it that on the night before she had wanted to leave the village, Jiraiya had shown up to her hotel room with several bottles of the last Senju's liquor of choice. Both Sanin got incredibly drunk, and Jiraiya's wildest dreams came true when they ended up in bed together, not that he had any memory of what had transpired. 9 months later Tsunade had given birth to twins, securing a future for the Senju clan. Now 51, her children were 8-year-old academy students, and she remained in the village running the hospital. Trying to get the assembled clan heads to stop laughing at her expense, Tsunade offered her own nomination. If anyone would make an ideal candidate to be Hokage, it would be my husband. Now all eyes turned to the Toad Sage, who was leaning against the wall acting as Tsunade's bodyguard, since the two of them were the only adults in the Senju clan. No. Jiraiya spoke. For one thing, well it's true that I'm in Konoha a lot more than I used to be now that I'm married with children, I still have to leave fairly often to maintain my spy network. Then, making eye contact with his wife, Jiraiya said, you've been running the village hospital since you moved back. You're a far better administrator than anyone in this room. I can think of no better candidate to be the next Hokage than you. Yeah, well if you can withdraw your name for your spy network, why can't I withdraw mine due to my duties at the hospital? That would be because there is no one else currently capable of doing Jiraiya's job, Senju-sama. But there is someone capable of doing yours. Yoshide said, with me today as my bodyguard is Uzumaki Kazumu, who is married to your apprentice. Do you not think that Uzumaki Shizune is capable of running the hospital? It was a trap, but even though she knew she was falling into it, Tsunade's pride in her apprentice and the woman she had become would not let her lie. Of course she is capable. Shizune is currently the deputy administrator and I know she could easily step into the head role. But that doesn't mean that I agree to becoming Hokage. It'd be a drag for him, but becoming Hokage does mean you could boss around Jiraiya-sama both at home and at work. Shikaku's joke was met with laughs from everyone in the room, except the Toad Sage, who now looked very nervous. Meanwhile, Tsunade's expression clearly showed that she would consider that a perk of the job. Akimichi Choza spoke next. Senju-sama, you have impeccable qualifications. Your grandfather was the first Hokage, you are related to the second Hokage, and are the student of the third Hokage. No one in the village would dare to question your qualifications, except for maybe the discontent faction within the Uchiha clan. The Kodo nodded in confirmation, the portion of her clan that opposed her and Itachi would not like another Senju Hokage, but the majority of the clan would support Tsunade. Asuma was the final one to make an appeal. I love my father, but he needs to retire. My brother and sister-in-law recently died on a mission and my father is grieving. He should be there with our family, with his now orphan grandson. Not cooped up in the tower. He wants to retire, but he's selfless, the will of fire burns strong in him, he will not make time for his own family, while the whole village needs him. Asuma then bowed. Please, Senju-sama. My father did a lot of good for you as a sensei. I know he's proud of you, but I can't imagine he'd be more proud than seeing you take the hat from him. Tsunade's silence was interpreted as a positive sign by everyone else in the room, and the meeting was quickly adjourned. Tsunade was the first to leave, but as he followed her out, Jiraiya turned around and mouthed, good job, I'll take it from here to the assembled clan heads. They'd done their part, now they just needed to wait for Tsunade to make up her mind. Several weeks later. Enter. At the command, Yuhi Kurenai walked into the Hokage's office and almost immediately felt out of place. As expected, seated at the desk in front of her was the new Hokage, Senju Tsunade, and it wasn't surprising that her husband, Jiraiya, was also there. But all the clan heads in the room caught Kurenai off guard. Bakashi and Asuma were of course colleagues of hers, and she had good relationships with Shibi and Yoshide, seeing as she was the sensei of their children. Shikaku was the Jonin commander and thus her boss, and where he went of course Inoichi and Choza would go as well. Still, while individually there was nothing strange about her interacting with any of these particular clan heads, all of them gathered in one place made Kurenai feel very out of place. Realizing that her emotions were reflected in her facial expression, Kurenai spoke. "Forgive me, Lady Hokage, I was unaware that this was a formal meeting," she offered, bowing. "You were not informed that this is a formal meeting because this is most certainly not a formal meeting, at least not that kind of formal," Tsunade responded. "Bakashi and I are here in our capacity as Jonin sensei, not as the heads of the Haddock and Sarutobi clans," Asuma added, knowing it would bring some relief to his not-so-secret girlfriend. Indeed, Kurenai did look relieved to hear that news. As the Yuhi were vassals of the Sarutobi, when Asuma acted as the head of his clan, she essentially had to behave in a subservient and submissive manner to him. This had definitely led to some playful bedroom fun for the couple, since he was named head of the Sarutobi clan 2 weeks prior, but it was not a way she wanted to behave in front of the first female Hokage. But seeing as this was not a formal meeting, Kurenai had no such obligation and instead walked up to Asuma and leaned against the wall next to him, close enough for there to be a sensation of physical contact, but not so close as to give away the fact that they were together. Though unbeknownst to her, everyone in the room had already realized they were in a relationship and figured that given the pressure on clan heads to marry and produce heirs, the new head of clan Sarutobi would be proposing soon. With everyone in the room, Tsunade began the discussion. Sarutobi sensei had been in the process of preparing to host an international Chunin exam 2 months from now. However, given the transition from him to me, I have decided to postpone the exams by 4 months. In response, Suna has announced that they will host an international exam in the originally agreed upon 2 months' time. Thus, I've decided that the exams we have 6 months from now will be domestic exams. No foreign shinobi. Kurenai now understood why she was in this particular meeting. Aburam Shino, her student, was the heir of the Aburam clan. There was pressure on him to do well in the exams and on her to make sure he was ready for them. Similarly, Asuma and Kakashi taught the heirs of the other clans represented in the meeting. Informing her through process, Jiraiya spoke next. Obviously there are pros and cons to this change for the clan heir genin. The international exams present a much bigger stage on which to show off, but they are also more difficult and it is not uncommon for only 1 or 2 participants to get promoted, given that the international panel of judges have different values and criteria for what constitutes a chunin. On the other hand, Swan took over domestic exams will result in a much smaller opportunity to show off, but are more likely to result in promotion. The village couldn't survive if only 1 or 2 genin were promoted each exam, as is common on the international level. Thus, roughly half of all those who take domestic exams earn promotion. Plus there is an additional 4 months to prepare for the domestic exams. I was hoping to hear the thoughts of the clan heads whose heirs are impacted by this change and thought it prudent to invite their Jonin sensei as well. Indeed. Shibi said, turning to Kurenai as he did. Yuhi-san, I would hear your opinion of Shino's readiness for the exams. Shino is progressing nicely, and I am confident that he and his teammates will be ready to participate in 2 months' time, though in an international exam on that time frame, it might just be to gain experience, as opposed to pushing for promotion. On the other hand, with an additional 4 months to prepare and the more relaxed standards, I'm quite confident that Shino could gain promotion on his first attempt. Shibi nodded in response, clearly thinking. Yoshide desperately wanted to speak up and ask about Karen, but as much as he loved his daughter, she was not next in line to lead the Uzumaki. Yoshide was only invited to this meeting to speak about Naruto, he would quietly approach Kurenai about his daughter after the meeting ended. Meanwhile, the heads of the Akimichi, Nara and Yamanaka clans, raised as brothers in all but blood, shared a look with each other. Based on Inoichi's expression, it was highly likely that he was facilitating a telepathic conversation between the 3 of them via his clan's Shindenshin Jutsu. Toza was the one who broke from the unspoken conversation first, turning to Asuma and asking how he would react if the 3 clans opted to choose the domestic route. Asuma in turn responded that he would have no objections. Like Kurenai, he felt his students would be ready to enter an international exam in 2 months' time and hold their own, but he was not as confident of their ability to gain promotion. Shikaku then stated that the 3 clans would opt for the domestic exams in 6 months, rather than foreign international exams in 2 months. This prompted Shibi to speak up again, saying that the Aburam would opt for the domestic exam as well, as long as Kurenai thought her other students would be ready. To which Kurenai responded that while neither were advanced as Shino, both Karen and Kiba would be more than ready come the domestic exams. Finally, all eyes turned to the representative of the one clan whose heir's exam fate had yet to be determined. "It's a complicated and delicate situation," Yoshide said. "On one hand, the clan could certainly use the extra prestige brought about by an international exam. On the other hand, I believe it is considered a major faux pas for a village to send their Jinchuriki to another village's exam." All the other clan heads nodded. Yes, sending a Jinchuriki to another village's exam was definitely considered dangerous and rude. Then there are the reports from Lord Jiraiya's spy network. The only person not privy to this information already, Kurenai perked up her head. If indeed Orochimaru is trying to acquire both an Uchiha and an Uzumaki, then Team 7 is an optimal target for him, and the chaos of a Chunin exam might be the ideal opportunity for him. While still not totally safe, it would make more sense than to have Team 7 participate in a domestic exam where the village has more control and can respond quicker should the snake try something. Yoshide then looked back at Tsunade. "I know Sasuke is not the official Uchiha heir, but given the issue of Orochimaru, have you discussed these options with Lady Mikoto?" "Yes." Tsunade confirmed. She noted that the Uchiha have a long-standing tradition of preferring international exams, but that it doesn't go against any rule to go the domestic route and that many Uchiha have done just that. Ultimately, she will defer to Kakashi's judgment on when he thinks the team is ready. That admission made Kakashi the center of attention. "Well, I'd been targeting the exams 2 months from now and am confident that the team will be ready by then, but given all the reasons you provided to wait for the domestic exams, it's quite possible that is the best option." "We will wait for the domestic exams as well," Yoshide said. "If Team 7 is as ready as Kakashi says they are, then this extra time should just serve as icing on the cake." "Alright, so it's agreed then. All 3 teams with clan heirs on them will wait until the domestic exams." Tsunade said, "I'll be consulting with the Jonin of other genin teams over the next 2 weeks. It's likely we'll send 1 or 2 teams to Suna just to be polite, but I think I'd like to hold back most of our genin to give Team 7, 8, and 10 more competition." With that, the meeting was dismissed and the attendees began to disperse. Kurenai followed Asuma out of the room and down the hall, intent of finding some privacy so that the Yuhi could prove her loyalty as a vassal of Asuma's. Something that was sure to be a pleasurable experience for both of them. Enter. As Yoshide heard the door open, he looked up from his paperwork to see who his visitor was. A small smile crossed his face when he saw the rightful head of the clan entering the room. "Ah, Lord Naruto, welcome. What can I do for you?" "Hi, Uncle Yoshide, I was hoping I could talk to you about something." "Of course, what is it?" Naruto looked down, seemingly a bit sheepish. "I was hanging out with some of my friends yesterday and we got to talking. Shino's been doing clan heir stuff since the day he became a genin, and Ino, Shika, and Choji have been doing more stuff with their clans recently too." Yoshide chose to remain silent, waiting to see exactly what Naruto wanted. "I think you're doing a great job and don't want to rush you out of office, but I was wondering if you could start to teach me how to be a clan head." Yoshide beamed. He had of course been aware that the other clan heirs from Naruto's graduating class had started to learn about their future roles, but he hadn't wanted to push Naruto. Technically, Naruto was already the head of the clan, he just wasn't eligible to rule yet, requiring the rule of a regent. "But of course my lord. You are already the head of this clan. I've just been keeping the seat warm until you are ready to take it from me. If you're ready to get started learning then we can do some work right now." Now it was Naruto's turn to grin. He'd seemingly been concerned that Yoshide wouldn't want to teach him, perhaps thinking that the long-time regent was wanting to hold on to power as long as possible, but it was clear now that those fears were unfounded. "That'd be great, Tobeo. Alright then, you can help me sort out all of this paperwork. Each of these documents is something that either requires your approval or your attention, and part of the job of a clan head is having the skills to quickly prioritize them, otherwise you'll just get bogged down in paper." Couldn't we just use shadow clones to help?" Naruto asked. "Oh, but I do. I sort through everything myself, then create clones to handle the lower priority stuff while deal with the things that are most urgent." "Oh, so what kind of things are in these documents?" "Well, that varies from day to day." Setting aside the large pile of documents yet to be sorted, Yoshide began pointing to the smaller piles and explaining each of them. "That pile there is financial statements. Our clan is not yet large enough to have an in-house accountant, otherwise they would go to that person and only reach my desk if there was a problem. Since we have to contract out to outsiders, I like to double-check their numbers. A shadow clone will handle this pile." "When do you think we could have our own designated accountant?" Naruto asked, clearly not liking the idea of having to sort through financial statements. "It's just a matter of having a clan member who has the technical knowledge to do the job, and that is not needed doing something more important." "Oh. So what's that pile?" Naruto asked, pointing to another one. "Copies of mission reports. Every mission completed by the village requires reports be submitted, and the clans receive copies of each report pertaining to a mission that a member of that clan was involved in. Sometimes they are redacted, of course. Again, this would normally be something that wouldn't be important enough to be a day-to-day job for a clan head, they'd just look at reports for notable missions, but since we don't really have any clan members to spare on administrative functions, I have shadow clones handle that pile as well. They'll dispel and alert me if there is anything they think I personally need to deal with. Yoshide then continued to explain the various piles. A pile that was for transcripts and meeting minutes. Another pile was quarterly progress reports on all Uzumaki Academy students. Naruto's reaction to the pile of monthly progress reports for each Uzumaki genin written by their sensei was amusing. He desperately wanted to see the reports Kakashi had written about him, and Yoshide took no small delight in denying that request. These were all piles that normally would be handled by administrative assistants or subordinates. For most clans, the clan head would only be notified if something in one of these documents was particularly notable, and the others would be archived. Of course, as was the running theme for the day, the Uzumaki were not large enough to both meet its quota of shinobi to the village and have leftover clan members to serve in administrative capacities, so Yoshide's clones handled these documents. Then there were the piles that a clan head would normally handle personally, mostly correspondence. The Uzumaki clan had official lines of communication with the daimyo, the Hokage, with the other clans, and with various other higher-ups and functionaries within the village and the Land of Fire as a whole. And of course the clan head would also personally deal with correspondence from Uzumaki clan members out on missions for the clan, but again, since we don't even have enough members to meet our quota to the village, we don't have any members out on missions for the clan. I didn't even know shinobi could be assigned missions by their clan. Naruto admitted. There are a lot of rules about it, but yes, I could theoretically assign Uzumaki to missions, but only in a very select few areas. Most missions have to be funneled to the village itself, but each clan has their own defined area of interest that they can assign clan members to missions for. An example would be a Nara member being sent on a mission to collect some rare herb for their pharmaceutical business. Interesting. Naruto said, so clans can withhold missions from the village and handle them internally if they are within the clan's area of interest. Exactly. Another example is the Hyuga. Branch family Hyuga tend to work for the village, while main branch Hyuga work for the clan. They have a large business empire, and it's not uncommon for their merchant convoys to be guarded by main branch Hyuga. This separation allows them to not pull anyone off of the village's mission list, whereas most clans temporarily withdraw a shinobi from the village forces to complete a mission for the clan. Naruto was clearly still processing this new information. As I said though, there are a lot of rules surrounding the process, mostly to prevent clans from stealing missions and thus profit from the village. Don't assume that these missions are commonplace. Clans are only allowed a limited number of these missions per year. Sure, I understand why it would be problematic for clans to have too many of these missions. Naruto responded, pull shinobi off of duty to the village and risk stealing money that should rightfully go to the village. Naruto took a moment to survey the piles of documents, and his eyes fell on the one pile that Yoshide had not already discussed with him. What about that pile, what is it for? Looking at the pile Naruto was asking about, Yoshide could only sigh. He had been hoping Naruto wouldn't see that pile, it wasn't something he wanted to discuss with the boy yet. Still, Naruto had asked about it, and Yoshide gave him the truth. That pile is for proposals for your hand in marriage, Lord Naruto, along with some proposals for Karen. The dumbfounded look on Naruto's face made clear his reaction, but he did manage to spit out a confused what. Don't be so surprised. Yoshide chided. My lord is an unwed clan heir, what did he expect? I guarantee that if you go to any clan compound in the village where the heir, heiress, or any other child of the clan head isn't married, you'll find similar stacks of proposals. Marriage clauses as part of business contracts or political alliances are less common than they were in the Warring States era, but are far more common than you might think. I've been receiving marriage proposals for you since you were 3 years old. Seeing the panic in Naruto's eyes, Yoshide quickly moved to reassure his quasi-nephew. Don't worry, at this point in time the clan is not entertaining any such offers, and we would prefer to allow you to choose your own bride. You have some time to mature and think about this before the clan gets involved. Naruto let out the breath that he hadn't realized he'd been holding, but Yoshide wasn't giving him a completely free pass. That being said, clan heads have a duty to actively and aggressively pursue an heir, and when that duty is combined with the fact that the number one priority of the Uzumaki clan is growth, you aren't going to be given forever to make up your mind. While most clans don't arrange marriages as a default, every clan has a metaphorical line in the sand where if the head, heir, or heiress hasn't made satisfactory progress towards their duty to reproduce, the clan will get involved. And what is that point for us, how long do I have? I'm not sure, honestly. You're 13 right now and an adult in the eyes of the village. Given that the average life expectancy of a shinobi is only to age 18 due to the high fatality rate, the fact that you are Lady Kushina's only child and the last Uzumaki to be of royal blood, the elders would be well within their rights to get involved tomorrow. For now I wouldn't focus on it too much, but if there is a girl that strikes your fancy other than Miss Yamanaka or any other clan heiress, I'd encourage you to begin courting her. That should be enough to buy you time. Trying to get Naruto's mind off of the topic of marriage, Yashai then pulled out the stack of documents yet to be sorted. But come now, my lord. You wanted to learn to be the head of the Uzumaki clan. Once we have this paperwork sorted, I'll go over some documents with you so that you can see what they actually contain. Eager for the distraction, Naruto gratefully dove into his new task. After an hour the pile was gone, and the regent and the rightful head of clan Uzumaki spent the rest of the afternoon going over and discussing various documents, with Naruto eagerly soaking up as much information as he could. Inside the Uzumaki clan's Great Hall. The Great Hall of the Uzumaki clan served as the central meeting place for the clan. Designed as a smaller replica of the original Great Hall in the hidden Whirlpool village, the building contained several distinct spaces. The conference room where smaller clan meetings were held, the clan's archives, a vault, a large communal kitchen, and the clan head's office were among the various facilities within the building, but perhaps none were as impressive as the main community space. The large room with high ceilings, most of the room was open, with tables and chairs of various sizes stacked to the side. A small stage was placed at the front of the room. On this particular day, the youth of the clan were gathered in the community space for one of the most important hallmarks of any Uzumaki's education. Fuinjutsu lessons. Fuinjutsu lessons began 1 year before students enrolled in the Shinobi Academy, with students practicing their calligraphy. As students got older, they moved from calligraphy to small and basic Fuinjutsu seals. Finally, as genin, the group lessons were no more. Genin Uzumaki still gathered for Fuinjutsu lessons alongside all the other students, but their lessons were more guided individual practice than the group lessons their younger peers participated in. A number of Uzumaki Chunin and Jonin patrolled the room, each assigned to working with a specific age group. Overseeing all of the organized chaos was the legendary Fuinjutsu Grandmaster Uzumaki Takahiro, who sat in a chair on the stage. Now in his 90s, his body had slowed considerably, but his mind remained sharp as ever. His eyes went over to the youngest students, working on their calligraphy. The single largest number of teachers were over there, one standing at the front of the group, demonstrating a particular concept with the others roaming and observing the work of the students. Any errors in calligraphy had to be identified and resolved early, else the student with the issues would very quickly fall behind. Calligraphy might have been the least interesting element of Fuinjutsu lessons, but in Takahiro's mind, it was also the most important component of the sealing arts. Satisfied that the foundational skills were being correctly taught to the beginners, the elder Uzumaki panned his eyes over the rest of the students until they finally came to rest on the 4 Uzumaki genin. Each genin was in a different place with their Fuinjutsu, in part because they used their Fuinjutsu skills in different ways. Tenten, for example, was totally focused on Uzumaki Kenjutsu. Sure, she kept up in Fuinjutsu, but it was clear that her passion lay elsewhere, and that was reflected in her Fuinjutsu skills. Her Fuinjutsu interests lay more in supplemental seals. Storage seals and seals that could be applied to weapons to modify or enhance them were her focus. Though Takahiro noted with a small smile that Tenten was not actually working on a seal, but was instead presently engrossed in a Fuinjutsu scroll. She had a certification exam coming up. Uzumaki Fuinjutsu users were graded on a scale of 1 to 10. At level 2, and Uzumaki was said to have a genin level of Fuinjutsu proficiency. 4 was classified as Chunin. 6 was Jonin. The title of Grandmaster, earned by perhaps only 1 or 2 people every couple of generations, was conferred upon those who passed the level 10 exam. In Tenten's case, she was studying for the level 3 exam, an exam that Karen had passed just the week before. Karen may have been a year younger, but where Tenten's passions lay elsewhere, it was clear that Karen was totally focused on Fuinjutsu. Whereas Tenten's seals were practical, Karen relished the theoretical. Still, theoretical applications of Fuinjutsu, including the famous space and time Fuinjutsu that enabled the infamous Hirishin technique of the 2nd and 4th Hokage, were very difficult. Though level 3, and thus the most advanced of the genin, Karen was not yet anywhere near ready for theoretical Fuinjutsu, quantum Fuinjutsu, or any of the other most advanced concepts that most Uzumaki never learned. Still, she'd get there eventually. Takahiro could see her talent and her passion. Tenten focused on Kenjutsu, Taijutsu, and ninja tools. Karen was a self-proclaimed Fuinjutsu nerd, and then there was Uzumaki Daisuke. His interests lay in ninjutsu. Like Tenten, his sealing interests focused on the practical aspects of Fuinjutsu as a supplement to his primary interests. Finally, there was Naruto. Fuinjutsu was absolutely in his blood. Takahiro had never actually met Kushina. He arrived in Konoha only 3 days after her death, but he had examined her work and he knew. If she had only lived long enough she could have been a Fuinjutsu grandmaster. As for her husband, Naruto's father, Takahiro was also quite impressed. As a non-Uzumaki we never would have let the yondaime take one of our certification exams, but I'd estimate his skills would have placed him around level 8 or 9. Most impressive for one who had no access to Uzumaki Seidel Fuinjutsu. Still, as the clan head Naruto would be required to be well balanced. He'd never have the time to dedicate to truly mastering Fuinjutsu. Not that he was a lost cause. He absolutely had potential. Those were Uzumaki Takahiro's thoughts as he watched the one jonin working with the genin walk between the four, offering support and feedback as they worked. Wishing to get a closer look at the next generation, the elder rose from his seat, leaning on his cane for support. Seeing him rise, a chunin quickly ran over and helped the elder down the stairs, supporting him as he made his way to the genin. An imaginarian's first stop was Tenten, who put down her scroll and offered a bow and greeting to the elder as he approached. "Ah, young Tenten. Still studying for your certification exams are we? You've been studying for quite some time. You started studying at the same time as Karen and she took the exam last week." "I know. I'm sorry Takahiro-sama. I'm just not as confident in my work as Karen is." "Ah, lack of confidence is it? Personally I'm quite confident you'll pass, but look at it this way. If you fail, you'll get detailed feedback about why you failed. This will help you improve. Failure hurts, it's true, but it is also the greatest learning opportunity we have. Why don't we schedule your exam for a week from today? That way you can still have a few more days to study, but can no longer keep putting the exam off." Tenten nodded, accepting the Grandmaster's proposed compromise. In response, Takahiro instructed the chunin accompanying him to report to Yoshide. Young Tenten will be taking her level 3 certification exam 1 week from today. Please inform Lord Yoshide to pull her from the village mission list from 2 days prior to the exam through 1 day after the exam, so that she'll have time to relax and focus without worrying about D ranks and team training. With one genin out of the way, Takahiro slowly made his way to the next. Karen. Takahiro had taken a vested interest in Karen's training, seeing her as the most likely candidate among the clan's population to become the next Grandmaster. While Karen had the necessary love of theoretical Fuinjutsu, it was still beyond her, so when Takahiro approached he found her working on something far more practical. "Practicing your speed are we, Karen-chan?" "Yes, Takahiro-sama. I want to be able to write this seal fast enough to be able to use it in combat. I'm in the support role on my team and I think this seal might be particularly useful for a tracking team." Putting on his reading glasses and inspecting her work, Takahiro noticed that she was working on a type of paralysis seal. Useful indeed for when the trackers finally caught up to their target. Her brush strokes were all correct and her seals looked immaculate. Watching her make the seal 2 or 3 times, it didn't take long for the elder Uzumaki to figure out a solution for her speed. "It seems that the only brush stroke on that seal that you don't have up to combat speed yet is the third. On the second stroke try dropping the angle of your brush a bit. You'll find that at a lower angle the second stroke flows more smoothly into the third and should improve its speed." Karen did as instructed and immediately noticed a slight difference. Not enough to fix her problem, but Takahiro could tell that with more practice this small correction would get her to her goal. "Excellent, keep practicing Karen. You continue to impress with your efforts and the clan has noticed." "Thank you, Takahiro-sama," Karen said, blushing a little bit at the praise. Taking his leave from Karen, Takahiro made his way over to Daisuke and offered feedback on his work before slowly making his way over to Naruto and doing the same. Finally, with his chunin attendant having returned from delivering Takahiro's message to Yoshide, the elder bid the chunin to help him back up the stairs to the platform where his chair sat. Settling into the comfortable armchair, Takahiro took a final look around the room. It warmed his heart to see the younger generations working so diligently on one of the clan's favorite ninja arts. And so it was with happy thoughts that Takahiro drifted off to sleep for an unintended midday nap. And that brings us to the end of Outline 2. Next up is Outline 3, covering the chunin exams. Beyond that currently there is nothing. I've really struggled in the 2 years since I came up with this story concept to figure out where I want to take it post-chunin exam. Maybe there will be more, maybe there won't. We'll see what happens in the future. Anyways, here's some clarification on Uzumaki Fuinjutsu for this story. As stated, Uzumaki clan members are graded in their Fuinjutsu abilities on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 Novice. 2 Genin level. 3 Advanced Genin level. 4 Chunin level. 5 Advanced Chunin level. 6 Jonin level. 7 Advanced Jonin. 8 Expert level. 9 Master. 10 Grandmaster. It is uncommon for Uzumaki to advance past level 7, with most settling into the 6 to 7 range. Only the true Fuinjutsu specialists tend to advance beyond that. To advance a level, an Uzumaki must pass an exam covering both Fuinjutsu theory and practical application, appropriate to the level the exam taker is attempting to achieve. The exams get exponentially harder beginning with level 7, as more advanced concepts are thrown in. I should note that these levels bear no correlation to the actual shinobi rank an Uzumaki has. It's quite possible for the village to promote someone to Chunin before they have a Chunin level skill in Fuinjutsu, for example. Fuinjutsu after all is not one of the skills that seem to play a part in promotions. Current Uzumaki Fuinjutsu levels. Takahiro, 10. Karen 3. Tenten 2, though by next chapter she will be level 3. Naruto 2. Asu 2. Yoshide 7. Kazumu 6. Shizune 2, she may be a jonin, but given that she didn't start studying Fuinjutsu until she married Kazumu, is not a biological Uzumaki, and is kept plenty busy by her job at the hospital and her 4 children, the clan doesn't really press her or any others who married into the clan to go past level 2. And for the heck of it. Kushina was said to be level 8, but that was her own self-assessment, which is considered a highly flawed way to diagnose. She did not get the chance to take an exam in the brief 6-month window between other Uzumaki beginning to arrive in Konoha and her death. Her skills may have been higher. Kushina also estimated Minato to be level 9, though given that he only used regular Fuinjutsu techniques, not Uzumaki Fuinjutsu techniques, he wouldn't have been able to take an exam even if he had time. Takahiro estimates in the chapter that Minato would be level 8 or 9, based on what he's seen of the Yondame's work. Kushina estimated Jiraiya at somewhere between 6 and 7, though the same difficulties with Minato apply here as well. The exams are based around Uzumaki Fuinjutsu, which is a clan secret, Jiraiya doesn't know it. Yoshide's office. Uzumaki Yoshide was just finishing with his final task for the day, eagerly looking forward to a quiet evening with his family and a day off the next day. Signing his name to the letter he had just written, he quickly sealed it inside of a secure envelope, wrote the addressee's name on it, and placed it in a basket along with the regent's other outgoing messages for a messenger to pick up the next day. Just as he was about to exit his office, he felt the flare of a chakra signature as someone shoeshined to him. Immediately, Yoshide was on alert. One did not simply shushin into the office of the Uzumaki clan head. The seal masters of the clan had secured the room with Fuinjutsu to prevent just such intrusions. Even Anbu personally sent by the Hokage were unable to enter via their preferred jutsu. Pivoting around to face the intruder, Yoshide very quickly realized that his visitor was not there for malicious purposes, and that in fact his guest was one of the very few non-Uzumaki that the seals would allow to use such a jutsu to enter and exit Uzumaki land. His visitor was kneeling before him. A woman in her 20s, she was dressed like a Konoha Anbu, but her long flowing purple hair easily made her identity known to those that knew her. Additionally, rather than wearing her mask, she held it at her side. A show of respect and an indication that she was not on official duty. "You wish to see me, Lord Yoshide?" the woman asked, eyes to the floor in deference. "Ah, yes. Please stand, Yugao." As the now revealed Yuzuki Yugao stood, Yoshide made his way back to his desk and sat down. "How may I serve Clan Uzumaki, my lord?" Before answering, Yoshide ran through a series of hand signs, activating an extra level of security beyond what was likely the most secure office in the village. Uzumaki had been hired to use seals to secure many rooms throughout Konoha, but they had saved their best work for their own compound. "I'm sorry, Yugao. What I'm about to ask of you some might consider it treason against Konoha." "That is of no concern, Yoshide-sama. The Uzuki have been vassals of the Uzumaki for centuries. It's true that I was born here, but only because my parents were Lady Kushina's personal attendants. Rest assured that I was raised a true Uzuki, even though I was orphaned at a young age. My loyalty to my lieges in the Uzumaki outweighs what loyalty I feel to Konoha." "I'm glad to hear that. May I ask if you are working in the upcoming Chunin exams?" "I am. Specifically, I've been assigned to the second exam as an assistant proctor. Normally Lady Haddock oversees the second exam, but since she is on maternity leave a substitute proctor has been assigned." "Yes, I'm well aware of that. The only thing I don't know is the identity of the Anbu serving as assistant proctors." "Thank you for clarifying. I am glad to hear you will be working the second exam." "You wish me to take some action during the second exam, my lord?" "Only if necessary. My greatest hope is that your services will not be needed. Should you do take action and be caught, I will of course deny ordering you to take action." "Of course, what should I do?" Yoshide took a deep breath, thinking about how to word exactly what he wanted. After a brief pause, he spoke. "These exams are critically important to the Uzumaki. 3 genin from the clan are participating, the most since before the Second Shinobi War, and Lord Naruto is among them. While domestic exams are safer, the rumors about Orochimaru are disturbing. I'd like you to watch over the Uzumaki that will be in the forest. Do not steal scrolls or actively help them, just make sure they all make it to the tower alive. Of course, my lord. Do you require anything in any of the other exams? I can't really help with the first exam, but my lover is proctoring the third, I could probably convince him to let me in. There is no need to involve Hade in any of this. Speaking of him, does Hade even know of your loyalties to the Uzumaki clan? He is well aware that the Uzuki are vassals of the Uzumaki and that I am quite proud of my heritage. However, I suspect that he thinks the relationship between the Uzuki and the Uzumaki is the standard vassal relationship that Konoha clans have. I doubt he suspects how deep the bond between our two houses is, my lord. I see. Have you given any thought to bringing him into the fold? Yoshide's not so subtle implication caught Yugao off guard and the woman was forced to collect herself and beat down a deep blush. I love Hade, my lord, and I do wish for the Uzuki line to continue. The noble sacrifice my relatives made to allow the few Uzumaki left in Yuzu to escape the destruction, the sacrifice my parents made to attempt to protect Lady Kushina, I do not want those sacrifices to have been in vain. But I cannot ask that of Hade. I cannot ask him to take the oath that I have. As long as your children take the Uzuki name and oath, I see no need for Hade to do so. We'd of course welcome you both and provide you a home here in the compound. Yoshide was clearly pushing now, but he knew that he couldn't push too hard. I don't mean to pressure or rush any decisions you make, I simply want what is best for the Uzumaki, and what is best for the Uzumaki is the survival of the Uzuki. As I said, my lord, I wish for the Uzuki to survive as well. Nothing would make me prouder than to see my future children swear the same oath of fealty and service to the Uzumaki that my ancestors have. I don't know how to approach Hade about it. Of course, as I said, take your time. Yoshide said. And speaking of time, I've taken too much of yours. You understand what I ask of you? Seeing Yugao nod in response, the regent continued. Then I'll let you go. Have a good night, Yugao. You as well, my lord. Just as quickly as Yugao entered Yoshide's office, she left, leaving Yoshide alone to reflect for a few minutes before he finally headed home. Konoha Academy. Congratulations to those of you still here. You've passed the first exam. The words that came from Marino Ibiki, proctor of the first round of the Chunin exams, left the assembled genin speechless. After a 9-question exam where the takers had been forced to cheat, Ibiki had revealed that participants had to opt into the 10th question, and should they get it wrong, they would be barred from participating in future exams, forever to remain a genin. This had whittled down the number of exam takers a fair amount, and when the time to choose was finally up, Ibiki had congratulated those that remained. The 10th question was actually whether or not they were brave enough to take that risk, those that chose to remain despite the possible consequences had passed. As Ibiki left the room, assuring those that had passed that the proctor of the second exam would be along shortly, Naruto surveyed the remaining participants, making sure that all of his friends had survived the cut. His teammates both had looks of quiet confidence about them. Sakura had almost yielded to the pressure, but reassuring looks from Sasuke and Naruto had strengthened her resolve, and she chose to attempt the 10th question. Team 7 was fine. Teams 8, 9, and 10 had also passed, meaning that all 3 teams with Uzumaki on them had passed, as had Naruto's friends Shino and the Inoshikacho trio. Naruto let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding, while also lamenting the fact that Team 11 was not participating. Speaking to Daisuke the day before had revealed that Genma, sensei of Team 11, had determined that his team was not ready and that they would need more seasoning and experience before attempting an exam. It was a shame that all 4 Uzumaki genin weren't participating, but it couldn't be helped. Content in knowing that all of his friends and fellow Uzumaki that were participating had made it to the next exam, Naruto allowed a smile to break through the blank and neutral expression he'd been trying to maintain since he entered the academy as he settled in for the supposedly short wait until the next proctor showed up. -3 hours later. As the assembled genin continued to wait, Naruto couldn't help but frown. He was bored, frustrated, and tired of waiting. As if wanting his displeasure publicly known, he flared his chakra. To his surprise, absolutely no one reacted. He had expected to be at least non-verbally chided for his actions. Patience was an important element of being a shinobi, essential for stakeouts, intelligence gathering, and tailing possible targets. Surely, someone, one of his teammates, one of his fellow Uzumaki, maybe even Ino or Shino, would have reacted to his admittedly immature action, but no one did. Suspicious. Again, Naruto flared his chakra, this time paying close attention. Again, there was no response from anyone, but out of the corner of his eye, he caught what looked to be a slight ripple. Perhaps it was just someone adjusting their position and causing their clothing to wrinkle a bit. Flaring his chakra for the 3rd time, Naruto watched the area that he had seen the ripple, only to see it again. It was not on any clothing, rather it was on the floor under Kiba. Genjutsu? Naruto thought, mentally groaning as he came to the realization that he was stuck in what was his ultimate Achilles heel. Uzumaki genetically have larger chakra reserves than the vast majority of shinobi. Most Uzumaki genin had the same amount of chakra as a low-level non-Uzumaki jonin. This made members of the clan extra susceptible to genjutsu, especially if they hadn't drilled chakra control to the level that someone like Karen had. However, as a Jinchuriki, Naruto's reserves were even bigger, and so he was that much more exposed to the illusory arts. Most Uzumaki could at least dispel a genjutsu once they realized they were stuck in one, not so for Naruto though. His only means of breaking out was to inflict severe pain upon himself. Rolling up a sleeve and bracing himself, Naruto bit down on his arm, hard. The pain was great, but it had the intended consequence of dispelling the genjutsu, causing many other exam takers to disappear. These people, including all of Naruto's friends and teammates, had apparently already dispelled the genjutsu. Quickly, an assistant proctor approached Naruto and instructed him not to break anyone else out, leading the bleeding Uzumaki heir out of the classroom and into a small side room. This room functioned as a waiting room for genin who had already broken out of the genjutsu and were waiting for their teammates, so Naruto was quickly reunited with Sakura and Sasuke. As Sakura began to heal his arm, Naruto learned that what had been 3 hours under the genjutsu had only been about 45 minutes in reality. As an Uchiha, Sasuke had easily detected and dispelled the genjutsu with his Sharingan, making him among the first to break out, and as such, he had been waiting for his teammates for quite a while. Sakura, an expert in chakra control who was studying genjutsu a bit herself, had detected the genjutsu and dispelled it after 10 minutes. They suspected that they had been placed in the genjutsu simultaneous with the door closing behind Ibiki. With his arm healed and his initial questions answered, Naruto walked with his teammates behind the assistant proctor as they were led to another room, this one filled with 27 exam takers, now 30 counting Team 7. Standing in front of them was a man that got an immediate reaction from Sasuke, his older brother Uchiha Itachi, heir to the Uchiha clan. Motioning for Team 7 to sit, Itachi spoke. 10 teams, that's enough. Break the others out of the genjutsu and inform them that while they did officially pass the first exam, they have failed to qualify for the second. As his assistants went off to follow his instructions, Itachi then addressed the 30 exam participants in the room. And to you all, congratulations for qualifying for the second exam. My name is Uchiha Itachi, and I have the pleasure of being the substitute proctor for the second exam. Traditionally when Ibiki conducts the first exam, his colleague Hadakanko conducts the second. As some of you may know, she recently gave birth to her second child and is on maternity leave for the foreseeable future. As such, I was asked to fill in. The Uchiha clan heir then paused a moment to allow for questions, but when no one spoke up, Itachi continued. The genjutsu-based preliminary was of my own design, but from here on I will be following the plans Lady Haddock set out. You are to meet me in front of training ground 44 in 4 hours. You are free until then, but I'd advise you to spend your time preparing for a 2-day mission outside the village. As if anticipating a question, he smiled as he spoke his final words. And no, I will not be hiding, nor will any genjutsu be involved. I will be standing out in the open in front of the training grounds beginning 1 hour from now, waiting for the exam start time. With that, Itachi's body dissolved into a murder of crows which flew out an open window, leaving 30 genin to silently process everything they had just learned. The more experienced genin stood first, heading out of the room quietly discussing their plans with their teammates. This prompted those attempting the exams for the first time to follow suit, and Team 7 quickly devised a plan for what supplies each member would bring before splitting apart to head home and pack. This led to a rather awkward situation where Naruto, Tenten, and Karen walked back to the Uzumaki compound together, but in complete silence. Unsure exactly what they'd be facing, the trio were afraid of accidentally revealing too much information to their clan compatriots. Roughly 4 hours later, in front of the Forest of Death. True to his word, Itachi was standing out and in the open for all to see in front of training ground 44. Those exam participants lucky enough to have an Uchiha or Hyuga on their team were easily able to get the peace of mind that no genjutsu was involved. 4 hours on the dot after he flew out of the exam room, Itachi spoke again. Welcome to training ground 44, affectionately nicknamed the Forest of Death. It's a personal favorite training ground of Lady Haddock and is her preferred location to use when she proctors Chunin exams. It's a very dangerous forest, quite unlike the rest of the forests around Konoha. There are many dark and powerful creatures that love to turn unsuspecting genin into snacks. A small few genin seemed a bit intimidated by this new information, but as far as Itachi could tell, most remained steadfast in their resolve. Each team will be given a scroll to take care of. 5 teams will receive Heaven Scrolls, and the other 5 will receive Earth Scrolls. In order to pass, your team must bring both a Heaven and an Earth Scroll to the tower in the center of the forest by noon 4 days from now. If you take longer than that, show up with only one type of scroll, or open your scrolls prior to arrival, you will automatically fail. Reactions varied. Choji predictably complained that they had only been told to prepare for 2 days, he didn't have enough food for 4 in the forest. Itachi coolly responded that there was plenty of edible vegetation to be found and game to hunt. For resourceful teams food would not be a problem. Shikamaru's observation that the design of the exam meant that only 5 teams could pass prompted Itachi to instruct the genin to direct all complaints to Anko, causing amused expressions to sprout on the faces of Team 7, imagining how their sensei's wife would react if some genin did come up to her and complain. Though their grins were quickly erased when Itachi told the assembled genin that he thought 5 teams passing was quite optimistic. He would be surprised if more than 3 teams passed. Because this is a domestic exam and is smaller than international exams, Lady Haddock and I made a few adjustments to the exam format Itachi was saying. One was to cut the amount of time you had from 5 days to 4. Another involved the use of lethal force. You can kill, and you will not get in trouble if you kill another competitor, but since we are all Konoha here we strongly discourage such actions. As he spoke, assistant proctors, all Anbu, went around distributing forms to the exam takers. Again, killing is allowed in Chunin exams, and you won't get in trouble for killing a member of another team, hence why we need you to fill out these consent forms. But I do again remind you that we are all Konoha. Killing your comrades is not likely to show the judges that you are Chunin material. When each team had their forms, the assistant proctors began distributing flares. Since we really don't want fatalities, we use these flares in domestic exams. If your team incapacitates another team, please light a red flare on the battlefield. This will summon an Anbu to watch over that team until they wake up. You do not have to wait for the Anbu to show up. On the other hand, you can use the green flares if your team needs immediate attention or help. Anbu will show up, render any necessary medical attention, and escort your team out of the forest. You will forfeit should you choose to light the green flare, but if you die then your hopes for promotion die with you, forfeiting is clearly the better option. Be smart. Finally, Itachi motioned to a tent. I'll be in there. One at a time a member of your team will enter, turn in your team's consent forms, and take your scroll. I suggest you hide it before leaving the tent. I should also point out that in an international exam we would not be using the flares and I would not be cautioning you against killing. However, you'd also have an extra day, so don't think that we are simplifying things down too much for the domestic exam. Domestic exams are always a fine balancing act of reducing the lethality without reducing the difficulty. By knocking a day off of the time limit, Lady Haddock and I are confident that we have found a good balance. With that, Itachi turned and made his way to the tent before quickly disappearing inside. Their briefing out of the way, Team 7 huddled. Sakura sent a tentative glance to Sasuke. Do you want to go, Sasuke? He's your brother. No. I'm sure some will already accuse him of favoritism because of me. It would look bad if I go in there. I'm touched by your concern for your brother, Naruto quipped. I'll go then. I don't think I've actually been introduced to your brother yet. Given that we are both destined to lead a clan one day, I think it's high time I introduce myself to him. A short time later the assistant proctors started calling teams one by one. Everyone watched who entered the tent. That person would be suspect number 1 when it came time to search another team for scrolls. Toji went for Team 10. Niji for Team Guy. Shino for Team 8. Finally, when Team 7 was called, everyone watched as the red-headed future ruler of Clan Uzumaki stepped forward and disappeared into the proctor's tent. Man. I cannot take credit for the idea of Yugao and the Izuki being vassals of the Uzumaki. I've seen it on this site before, though honestly I have no idea where I first saw it, nor which of the stories I've seen it in was the first to think up the idea. It does work surprisingly well though, Yuzu being present in the family name and all. Team 7 sat on the grass outside their designated entrance to the Forest of Death, waiting for the exam to start and taking the opportunity to relax while they could. Once in the forest they'd be constantly on high alert. As they lounged around waiting for the assistant proctor to open the gate, they discussed strategy as well. Naruto, what kind of scroll do we have? At Sasuke's question, Naruto opened his eyes, having been lying on the ground resting. We have a heaven scroll. And where is it? Sakura asked. Well, sealing is in Uzumaki's specialty after all. Naruto perked up a bit at the opportunity to show off. Our scroll is sealed inside a storage scroll. That scroll is sealed inside yet another storage scroll, and that scroll is sealed inside one of the several different Fuinjutsu seals I have on my body and clothes, but I think it's better if you not know which one. I agree. If we don't know where it is it will help hide it. Sasuke stated, ending the conversation. When it came to the sealing arts, his teammates had long since learned that Naruto was the expert and authority on the team. They trusted him. As they spoke, 3 clones of Naruto came out of the foliage behind them, each carrying an exact replica of the heaven seal that Naruto possessed. Each clone approached a member of Team 7 and handed them a scroll. "Decoys?" Sasuke asked. "Sakura's idea." Naruto's response and the impressed look that Sasuke gave her caused Sakura to squirm a bit. She had improved in the months since Team 7 became a team, but she still considered herself the weakest link. Praise from her teammates was always appreciated. Taking the initiative again, as she had with the decoys, Sakura spoke. "I think we have pretty good plans to protect our scroll, now let's figure out how to obtain an earth scroll." "The way I see it, we have 2 options," Sasuke said, taking charge of the discussion. "We can either set a trap and wait for another team to fall into it, or we can go on the hunt for another team. It's a big forest and there are only 10 teams." Sakura responded. "There's every chance that if we just randomly set a trap, no team will be near enough to walk into it. So we set it close to the tower." Naruto responded. "We know every team has to go there at some point. Presumably they wouldn't be going to the tower until they already have 2 scrolls though, so we'd likely waste a day or 2 waiting for a team to show up." Sakura countered. "Trapping should be one of our strengths." Sasuke spoke again. "Sakura and I are both good with ninjutsu, while Naruto is good with seals. That gives us a lot of options for our traps. But we'd also be good at hunting." Naruto responded. "I can spam clones to scout, your Sharingan can help us avoid traps, and Sakura can always heal us back up if we get in a scrap. Hunting takes a lot more energy, trapping conserves our energy." Sasuke countered. Knowing their time was running short, Sakura spoke up to try to find a compromise. "What if we do both? We head to the tower first and set a trap, then Naruto uses his clones to scout. If they find a good team, the clones can either herd that team towards our trap or help us pursue them." Naruto and Sasuke both looked at Sakura before looking to each other and grinning. It seemed that a plan had been agreed to, and not a moment too soon. The crow had landed on the fence, prompting the assistant proctor nearby to go to the gate, unlock it, and open it. Though he also motioned for Team 7 to not enter the forest yet. In response, Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke stood up and readied themselves. 30 seconds later, a firework went off over the forest, prompting the assistant proctor to wish the team good luck and step out of the way, while Team 7 dashed into the forest. Team 7 formed up in a triangle as they ran. Sasuke took point with Sakura on the left and Naruto on the right. Making a familiar hand sign, Naruto created several clones to cover the rear and spread out around them as an extra line of defense, while they made a beeline straight to the center of the forest and the tower. But Team 8 was waiting for their gate to unlock. Kiba appeared anxious and excitable, with Akamaru mimicking his master's mood. Shino stood under the shade of a tree, staring at his hand and the small number of his insects that were seated upon it. Eren sat out in the open, meditating. Perhaps out of boredom, Kiba spoke up. "So what's the plan once we get going?" "I suggest we locate and defeat weaker teams." Shino responded. "That's because we were created to be a tracking team. This exercise should suit our strengths well." "I agree." Karen responded, opening her eyes and getting up from her seated position. "Between my Kekai Genkai, Shino's bugs, and your and Akamaru's noses, locating weaker teams should be easy." "Karen." Shino calmly looked towards his Uzumaki teammate after he spoke her name. "Are Naruto and your other clanswomen able to use your clan's Kekai Genkai yet?" Knowing which Kekai Genkai Shino was referring to, Karen shook her head as she spoke. "Not to my knowledge. The mind's eye of Kagura is a rare Kekai Genkai that traditionally only appeared in a small number of Uzumaki each generation. As far as I know, only my mother and I possess it, though I suppose that if it is genetic, my younger siblings might be able to awaken it as well." "How fortuitous. This works in our favor." Shino responded. "Yeah." Karen nodded in agreement. "But don't underestimate them. Every Uzumaki is a sensor type. While not as good as me, Naruto-sama and Tenten are good sensors. And Ino from Team 10 is a Yamanaka. They tend to be sensors as well." Karen then looked down to the dirt and grew suddenly quieter. "I'm not sure I should have told you about how rare my Kekai Genkai is among my clan. I trust you both, but please don't go speaking out about it. You have nothing to worry about." "Why?" "Because Kiba and I both come from clans as well. We understand the need for discretion." "I'm not sure what discretion means, but if it means what I think it does, Shino's right. You don't need to worry about us. Teammate protects our own." As they spoke, a crow landed on the fence to the training ground and the proctor began to move towards the gate. "It would seem the moment is at hand. Are we all in agreement?" Shino asked. "Let's go hunting." Karen responded. A fear-like grin appeared on Kiba's face. There was no need for him to verbally respond. It was obvious how excited he was. Akamaru did bark a couple times in agreement, speaking for both him and his human. As soon as the firework exploded and the proctor disappeared, Shino held up his arms, causing a huge number of insects to fly from him into the forest, beginning to scout. After waiting a few seconds to give the bus a head start, teammate dove into the forest in a diamond formation with a camera on point, Karen on the left, Shino on the right, and Kiba bringing up the rear. With Team 9. So we're in agreement then. I will use my Byakugan to identify a suitable target and we will head towards that team, defeat them, and take their scroll. Yosh. I look forward to our youthful pursuit of our competitors. What could be more youthful than rushing towards youthful combat at youthful speed? Just youthfully thinking about it brings me to new levels of youthfulness. If only our best beloved and most youthful Guy Sensei were here to witness our youthful pursuit. Ignoring Lee, the third member of Team 9 spoke up. Niji, don't forget that I'm a censor. I can help identify teams as well. That is not necessary. The Byakugan is far superior to anything you can do, Tenten. Tenten sighed in frustration. Her teammates were both strong, and she had grown to consider them both friends over their almost 2 years as a team, but between Lee's in public, Tenten politely chose to refer to it as enthusiasm, and Niji's arrogance they could quickly get on her nerves. Niji, we've gone over this. We work best as a team. HMPH. Fine. You want to help, Tenten. Use those sensory abilities to keep track of any creatures or teams that might be tracking us, but only the Byakugan is good enough to track our targets. When the fireworks went off, Lee immediately burst into the forest at top speed. Tenten and Niji, however, remained behind. So the plan is still the same, right? Niji smirked as he responded. Of course, once I identify a team I'll send Lee after them. You and I will follow at a more normal pace. Hopefully that will allow Lee to burn off some of his eccentricities and allow us to have some peace. It's a good thing we aren't going for stealth. Tenten responded, we both know Lee is incapable of it. With that, the pair dove into the forest after their hyperactive teammate. With Yugao. Yugao watched the genin team that was assigned to her gate with a mix of mild amusement and disappointment. All 3 members of Team 10 were destined to lead their clans in the future, yet the team didn't seem to be taking things seriously. The Nara was napping. I suppose there is some validity in that Yugao mused, he won't be able to rest much once he's in the forest after all. The Akimichi was already burning through his food supplies. Not unexpected I suppose, the boy is Akimichi after all. But wasn't he the one complaining that he only brought 2 days worth of food? At the rate he's going it will all be gone before his team even steps into the forest. Yugao did have to give the Yamanaka Kunoichi some credit. She was at least trying to corral her teammates and come up with some sort of plan. She's going about it the wrong way though. It's clear that her teammates are used to her berating them and have completely tuned her out. Still, Yugao knew that there was more to this team than met the eye. I suppose I should remember that they are only 12, 13 years old. I can't expect them to be fully mature yet. And I've seen this team before, when their backs are against a wall they spring into action with the best of the village's genin. Turning her thoughts from the team in front of her, Yuga reached out with her senses and tried to locate her 3 real charges for this exam. The trio of Uzumaki participating. Yugao's sensory abilities were considerably weaker than an actual sensor-type ninja, but like most Yuzuki she had some actual Uzumaki blood in her and had inherited a bit of their sensory abilities. She wasn't quite good enough to be a sensor type, but she had better chakra sensing abilities than the average non-sensor. As such she was easily able to locate 3 Uzumaki chakra signatures, while another was just barely within her range. One was clearly the Uzumaki Anbu helping to proctor the exam, and Naruto was easy enough to pick out with his massive reserves. That left Karen and Tenten unidentified. One well within her range, the other just on the edge. I suppose it doesn't matter which is which. Yugao though. The priority is Naruto-sama. As long as I stick close to him and monitor the other 2 signatures, it doesn't really matter which is Karen and which is Tenten. Pulled from her pondering by a crow landing on the fence, Yugao jumped down from the tree she had been seated in and unlocked the gate. To their credit, the sound of the lock opening caused Choji to put away his food, Shikamaru to wake up and stand, and Ino to quiet down. By the time the firework went off it was almost like Yugao was looking at a completely different Team 10. They'd gone from looking almost comically incompetent to being composed, serious, primed, and ready. Yugao watched as they dove into the forest, sparing just a moment to reflect on Team 10. I think they'll be just fine. Waiting the 5 minutes she had been instructed, Yugao tracked the movements of the 3 Uzumaki genin before it was time for her to enter the forest as well, running across the treetops as she raced to the tower. First, she had to check in with Itachi and all the other assistant proctors, best not to arouse suspicion after all. After that she'd locate her lord and keep watch. With Team 7. The tower at the center of the forest was a sight to behold. Surrounded by a clearing, the large red structure towered above the surrounding forest. Looking upon it from his hiding place in some thick shrubbery on the other side of the clearing, Naruto couldn't help but be impressed. Does that work for you, Naruto? Huh? Naruto was pulled from his thoughts by the question he had been asked and sheepishly had to admit he had not been paying attention. Sorry Sakura. I got distracted. Can you run that by me one more time please? If you can write a Fuinjutsu seal on the ground that will paralyze things, I can cover it with a Jinjutsu. After that we can try to steer passing teams into the trap. Once that happens Sasuke can use his Sharingan to put a member of the captured team into a trance and learn the location of their scroll. Sounds good to me, Naruto grinned. How big of an area can you cover with your Jinjutsu? I'm just a genin and I've been focusing more on medical ninjutsu than Jinjutsu, but maybe 2 square meters. Still, at that size my chakra would be spread pretty thin and it would probably be pretty easy to detect. I see. Naruto mentally went through the various Fuinjutsu seals that he knew, seeing if he had one in his arsenal that would meet the team's needs. After a few moments, he turned his attention back to his teammate and asked another question. What if I put down seals in multiple spots, can you cover them all? Sakura's response solidified Naruto's choice of seal. If they're small enough then yes. Okay then. I know a paralysis seal that starts small, but expands to a greater area and traps everything caught within it. In its dormant state it's roughly 20 centimeters by 10. I should be able to cover a few of those. Perfect. While Naruto and Sakura had been discussing the requirements of the Fuinjutsu and Jinjutsu, Sasuke had been identifying places for the team to lay their traps. With a plan agreed, he led the team to the first location. The pattern quickly emerged. Once Sasuke led the team to a location he and Sakura would assume guard duty, while Naruto focused on writing the formula for the paralysis seal that was the base of their trap. When he was finished he swapped places with Sakura, taking guard duty while she laid a Jinjutsu over Naruto's work, blending it into the ground around them. Finally, Sasuke would lead the team to the next spot he had identified and the process would repeat itself again. A couple hours later 5 traps surrounded the tower and it was time for Team 7 to settle in and wait. As Naruto created a small army of shadow clones and sent them into the forest to scout, Sasuke pulled a set of radio communicators and headsets from his pack. Team 7 would each set up in their own spot so as to maximize their field of vision and keep an eye on the traps from multiple angles. Sasuke hid himself in some bushes while Sakura took to a tree. Naruto had originally wanted to call upon his Uzumaki heritage and hide in the nearby stream, but unfortunately the stream hadn't quite been deep enough for him to hide. Oh well. It would have been pretty cold anyways. Plan B. Naruto unsealed a ghillie suit, put it on, and hid himself in a patch of tall grass right at the edge of the forest. He made sure to find a comfortable position. If his clones failed to identify a suitable target, it could be several days of waiting in the exact same spot. With Team 8. Karen, Kiba, and Shino sat huddled in a small clearing in the forest, taking a quick breather after several hours of unsuccessful hunting. As they rested, Karen was meditating and using the mind's eye of Kagura, while Shino's insects were constantly coming in and out, returning to their master to inform him of their discoveries and to rest while fresh members of the hive headed out to scout. When the last insects had arrived and passed on their information, Shino spoke. It seems that only 8 teams now possess a scroll. One team has none, while another team has finished the exam and successfully entered the tower. What? That's so fast. Kiba said, momentarily speaking loudly before recovering and returning to the hushed tones the team was using to help remain undiscovered. At that point, Karen's eyes opened as she exited her meditative position and entered the conversation. Denton's team finished so fast. That Hyuga and the kid that I can't sense for some reason must be crazy strong. It would seem that the rumors around Team 9 are true. Shino added. Truthfully my insects were tracking them more for us to avoid them than anything else. Yeah, I was also trying to keep us as far away from them as possible. Karen admitted. What? Why? Kiba seemed a bit confused. Just because the Inyazuka feel the need to fight strong opponents in order to try to show dominance like a dog doesn't mean we should be chasing down the strongest teams. Karen chided. I've never come anywhere close to beating Tenten in a spar and according to her she is far and away the weakest member of her team. Oh. Okay. Kiba relented. Can we go after Team 7? I really want to fight Naruto or Sasuke. No. Karen and Shino said in unison. Even Akamaru gave Kiba a look that seemed to say are you serious? We are a bad matchup for Team 7. Why you ask? That's because they are an assault team. Their individual skill sets and teamwork are geared towards direct combat. We are a tracking team. You are the only one who is good at direct combat Kiba, Karen and I are not. We would be at a disadvantage. Seriously, are you trying to get our one scroll taken from us? Karen followed up. This is not the exam to be fighting strong teams. This is the exam to avoid teams that are stronger than us while picking off teams that are weaker. Focus on getting to the next exam. You can fight Naruto-sama or Sasuke there. Fine, fine. So let's find a team that's weaker then. Seeing that it was 3-1, Kiba begrudgingly conceded. As the Inyazuka spoke, a solitary insect flew towards Shino, who opened his palm to allow the landing pad. Karen watched with a curious look on her face as the insect and its master silently communicated before it disappeared up Shino's sleeve, and the Aburamaru looked towards his teammates. There is a team roughly a 3-hour run from our location. My insects believe their chakra is weaker than ours. Some of my female insects are with them giving off pheromones so I can track them. The team is stationary and resting, so if we leave now we can make up some ground. Eager to fight someone, anyone really, Kiba quickly agreed. Karen too seemed enthusiastic, and in a matter of moments the clearing was empty as teammate was back on the hunt. As she left the clearing, Karen looked up to see an eagle perched on a tree staring down at her. Something told her that not all was well with the eagle, but unwilling to hold back her teammates, Karen did not use the mind's eye of Kagura, instead she gave the eagle a glare that conveyed her suspicion and hurried after her teammates. Team 10. Toji and Shikamaru stood with kunai drawn, on high alert, as they did something that their ancestors had done for generations. Guard the vacant body of their Yamanaka colleague. Ino had used a Shintention jutsu on a squirrel 3 hours earlier, after the trio had agreed that it would be the best way for them to scout. Ino was a competent kunoichi who was well versed in her clan's arts, and both Shikamaru and Choji knew this, still they couldn't help but be concerned. They had agreed on 2 hours, not 3. The sound of their quasi-sister stirring, indicating that her soul had returned to her body, caused great relief in the pair of boys, but following protocol they held their guard. When Ino was fully awake and alert they could relax a bit. A hand on each of their shoulders told them that Ino was up and the two boys' postures visibly relaxed. Troublesome woman, you're late, we were worried. Seriously no, would you do that? Sorry guys. Ino at least had the grace to acknowledge the anguish she had caused. Team 10 wasn't just normal teammates. These were her brothers and they had possibly been imagining their sister captured or killed. I was late because I saw a teammate and switched into an eagle to spy on them, but I think Karen caught me so I hung back for a bit and had to pretend to just be a regular bird. Sounds like a drag. Get any good info? That team with the other Uzumaki and the Hyuga is already finished. That really is a drag. How the hell did they do that? I don't know. Toji finally entered into the conversation again to try to keep the team focused on things they could control. Did you find a team for us to target? Yeah, on my way back from teammates' camp I saw signs of another team and followed them for a bit. They got attacked by a bear and got injured. If we hurry we can get their scroll while they're down and before they possibly forfeit. Motivating the boys a bit further, Ino sweetened the pot. Remember, the sooner we finish the sooner we can sleep in a bed and have home-cooked food. When Shikamaru didn't complain Ino could only smile. She'd grown up with Shika and Choji, she knew the right strings to pull to get them to act. As Team 10 dashed off with Ino on point, she could only think about how there was no one else that she'd rather be stuck in the forest of death with than her brothers. The next day. Sasuke was in Uchiha, a scion of one of the most powerful clans in existence, co-founders of Konoha. He had a reputation to live up to as a member of a clan known for their competent and powerful shinobi. Yet despite all of that, he was still just 13. The sheer boredom of staking out the central tower for over 24 hours was taking its toll on his mental stamina. At this point, he would be thankful or something, anything really, to happen, even if it wasn't another team entering the area. The speaker on his headset crackling to life brought some relief, even if it was just Sakura making the agreed-upon hourly check-in with the team. Nothing here. Sasuke said, responding to her query. Same, nothing. Naruto's vocal tone conveyed that he was just as bored as Sasuke, but his voice cutting off mid-word made clear that something was happening. Naruto. What's wrong? Sasuke was quickly standing up and stretching, preparing to go over to where his teammate was hiding and check on him, but his headset crackled again. Hold on, one of my clones dispelled. We have a possible target. Anyone we know? Nope, but they look like they might only be a year or two older than us. They just finished taking an Earth scroll from another team and are tired and resting. 2 hours from here at top seed. The big smile spread across Sasuke's face, not only would he no longer be on stakeout, but he would actually see some action. What are we waiting for? Leave some clones here to man the traps and let's go. With Team 8. Not far from the central tower Kiba and Akamaru's nostrils were flaring as both Inyazuka and Ninken were using their advanced senses of smell to warn them of any dangers. I can't smell them anymore, they might have left. My insects also confirm that Team 7 has left the vicinity of the central tower. Did you manage to get a bug on them? Yes, one of my insects is on each member of Team 7. Good. At this point, Karen's eyes opened as she stood from her meditating position. They may be gone, but I still sense both Lord Naruto's and Sakura's chakra in the vicinity of the tower. Naruto-sama seems to have left some shadow clones, while Sakura's chakra seems to be in the form of several genjutsu around the perimeter of the clearing. They have likely left traps. Shino mused. I would guess that underneath the genjutsu we would find some sort of fuinjutsu that Naruto left for us. Sakura knows genjutsu now. Kiba seemed surprised. Sakura had been among the weakest members of their graduating class and had a reputation as someone who was very strong on the theory and history of shinobi, but who struggled in practical application. Essentially the opposite of himself. They are students of Lord Haddock, and for all her weakness in the academy, Sakura always had exceptional chakra control, meaning genjutsu should come naturally to her. It would be foolish to assume they haven't improved since graduation. Why? Because we certainly have. Okay, so can we go fight Naruto's clones? Even after obtaining their second scroll earlier in the day, Kiba was still eager for a good fight. No. They'll have the advantage. If they get one of us within range of one of the traps it could all be over, Karen said. She sat down and began thinking of a way for teammate to avoid combat while achieving their goal of getting into the tower and finishing the exam. After a few minutes of awkward silence, she appeared to have an idea. Shino, do you think you can sneak some of your insects onto the clones undetected? Small numbers of insects should be easy, how many do you need? I want to drain the chakra of the clones, not enough to dispel them and alert Lord Naruto, but enough to make them sluggish enough that we can get past them without them resisting. My insects would relish the opportunity to feast on Uzumaki chakra, however, given Naruto's extensive reserves, it would take a lot of them to achieve the expected results. The clones would likely notice their presence and manually dispel themselves to alert their creator. Karen conceded the point, but thankfully for her, at least one of her teammates was able to match her intelligence. However, if we can create something small enough, my insects can deliver it undetected. Are you able to write some sort of paralysis seal on a very small piece of paper? After digesting his question for a few seconds, Karen's face light up in glee. That's Shino, that's brilliant. How much space do I have to work with? In order to keep the number of insects required small and undetected, each piece of paper could likely only be 5 cm by 5 cm at most. Not a lot to work with. Good thing I like a challenge. Can you guys guard me for an hour or two while I experiment? Teammate then retreated a bit deeper into the forest, back to a hollowed out log they had noticed on their way to the tower. Once there, Karen set up shop inside the log while her teammates and their animal companions kept watch. Karen didn't allow herself to relish the challenge presented to her too much, she had no idea how long it would be before Team 7 returned. If teammate wanted to get into the tower before the real Naruto and his teammates returned, she'd have to be fast. 2.5 hours later. I suppose I should just be glad that I won't have to be on stakeout duty anymore. Uchiha Sasuke looked at the unconscious Genin team sprawled in front of him and struggled to hold in his contempt. After 2 hours of hard running, Team 7 had arrived to find a team that Sasuke had easily noted contained no clan shinobi. Sakura had quickly and easily managed to put the trio into a genjutsu. After that it had been quick work, Sakura and Naruto each knocked out a genin, while Sasuke used his Sharingan to put the lone Kunoichi in a trance and actually made her present him with her team's scrolls. Were it up to him, they would have immediately left with both of the other team's scrolls, but Naruto and Sakura wanted to play nice with their fellow Konoha. Team 7 would only take the scroll it needed. After handing the required scroll over to Naruto, Sasuke tried to appear disinterested but watched with covert fascination as Naruto rolled up his left sleeve to reveal what appeared to be a tattoo of the Uzumaki clan crest. However, it was quickly revealed to be a sealing array as Naruto ran his finger over it and unsealed a storage scroll. From there, Naruto had quickly written a new Fuinjutsu array on the storage scroll and sealed the exam scroll into it before rolling the storage scroll back up and sealing it into the array on his arm. At that point he visibly froze, a sign that Sakura and Sasuke had learned meant that some of his shadow clones had dispelled and that he needed a moment to process the flood of information he had received. After a few moments passed, Naruto simply chuckled to himself and muttered, "Clever, very clever." "Everything okay, Naruto?" Sakura asked. "Teammate got past our traps and my clones, they finished the exam." Sasuke looked intrigued. "How?" "They paralyzed my clones." From there, Karen is a good enough sensor that she could detect where our traps were and guided her team around them and into the tower. "How did they paralyze your clones?" "I don't know for sure, but my guess is that Karen created some very small paralysis seals and Shino's bug slipped in undetected and placed them. They had to be small, they only held my clones for 5 minutes." "Oh." Naruto turned to Sasuke and Kiba took the time to taunt the clones and said that he looks forward to beating specifically you and I in the next exam. Now it was Sasuke's turn to chuckle as he responded, "Then I look forward to one of us putting the mud in his place." Focusing the boys back in on the present, Sakura pointed out that with both a Heaven and Earth scroll in their possession, the traps were irrelevant anyways, provided Team 7 could make it to the tower before losing one or both of them. But that Sakura fired off the flare that would summon Anbu to watch over the unconscious team until they woke up and Team 7 took off at top speed towards the tower. With Yugao having personally witnessed Karen and teammate outmaneuver Team 7's traps and enter the tower, Yugao could breathe a little easier when it came to her true mission. 2 of the 3 Uzumaki were safe and in the tower. Still, the most important one, the only Uzumaki alive with a strong enough ancestral claim to be able to become the head of the clan, was still out there. Yugao's official mission at this point was to patrol the forest, responding to flares from teams and keeping an eye out for outside interference and cheating. Thus, it was easy for her to disguise her mission for her masters in Clan Uzumaki within the work she was doing as an assistant proctor. Locking in on Naruto's chakra signature wasn't hard, it was far and away the biggest chakra signature within Yugao's sensory range. As she made her way towards Naruto, she came up with a plan. No longer having to worry about Tenten or Karen, Yugao would stay close by Naruto, patrolling just far enough away to have plausible deniability if one of the other proctors got suspicious, while staying close enough to be able to quickly respond if trouble arose. As she raced towards Naruto, Yugao thought of her parents. They had served Kushina loyally, but it ultimately failed to protect her on that fateful day all of those years ago. But while her parents may have failed to protect Kushina, Yugao would not allow herself to fail at protecting Kushina's son. Naruto-sama. I will keep you safe or give my life in your defense. With Team 7. It was an all-out dash to the tower for Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke. They could rest when they arrived safe and confirmed they passed the exam. To that extent, Sasuke's Sharingan were active, and Naruto not only had clones surrounding him and his teammates, but was constantly using his sensory abilities. Even Sakura was contributing to their race to the tower, she was slower than either of her teammates, and they usually had to slow down to match her speed, but she was using as much chakra as she could to instead speed up and match Naruto and Sasuke at their pace. Thus far they had made excellent time, it had taken them 45 minutes to get to the halfway point of their run, meaning they had shaven about 15 minutes off of their time going from the tower to their targets. Everything had been going well, but in an instant everything changed. Naruto detected a massive chakra presence appear out of nowhere right in front of the team, but before he was able to react or respond in any way, what appeared to be a massive white tail appeared out of the trees as his team was in the middle of a jump from one tree to the next. The tail moved faster than any of them could react, and in an instant Sakura and Sasuke had been swatted away, while the branch that Naruto had been planning to land on had been cleaved straight off of the tree. With his landing space gone, Naruto fell straight to the forest floor below. Shaking off the pain he felt from the fall, Naruto forced himself to stand and found himself face to face with a massive white snake, far larger than even the largest pythons would normally grow. Its yellow eyes were fixed on him as its tongue flickered in and out of its mouth. The snake's head moving backward was the only warning Naruto received before it lunged at him with its mouth open and its fangs on full display. Thankfully, Naruto had picked up on the warning and was already performing the substitution jutsu. Once he was safe, Naruto performed the shadow clone jutsu. Surrounded by clones of Naruto on all sides, the snake unleashed its tail once more, seeping it around in a fluid motion. Many of the Naruto clones were able to dodge out of the way, but many others were wiped out and the force of shadow clones was wiped out by about half. The remaining clones went on the offensive, pelting the snake with a variety of ninjutsu, taijutsu, and even fuinjutsu techniques, none of which was powerful enough to penetrate the snake's thick scales. All the while the snake continued to whittle down the number of clones fighting it. Naruto had a clear choice to make, he could allow the clones to buy him time as he frantically searched for his teammates and/or attempted to escape, or he could join the fight himself. Drawing his sword, Naruto somewhat foolishly chose the latter. Setting himself up in the preferred Ateru stance, Naruto launched into an attack, but even his blade wasn't enough. The scales of the snake were just too thick. What he did succeed in, however, was drawing the snake's attention to him. Naruto's biggest weakness in swordplay was his defense, there was no questioning that. Ateru, the fourth form of Uzumaki Kenjutsu, was an aggressive stance, and while the style did have some defensive elements to it, they were rather advanced concepts, and Naruto struggled with them. Recognizing this, Naruto shifted his stance and grip as he moved from the fourth form of Uzumaki Kenjutsu to the third, a far more defensive style of fighting. In this stance, Naruto had some initial success at holding back the snake's ferocious attacks. However, he was not as familiar with or skilled in the third form as he was the fourth, and eventually the snake broke through. Naruto was forced to perform substitution once again, which combined with a coordinated assault by several of his clones, drew the snake's focus elsewhere. Given a brief moment where he wasn't actively engaged in combat, Naruto reassessed the situation. Even with the original joining in the fight, the force of Naruto's was not enough to damage the snake in any real capacity. Still, the Uzumaki were known for their stubborn tenacity, and even if Naruto conceded that he was not powerful enough to damage the snake with his blade, he wasn't giving up. The original made a few more clones to reinforce those that remained as he shifted his strategy. The clones were to buy him time. Not time to locate his teammates or allow him to escape, but instead to allow Naruto to work uninterrupted. Unsealing parchment, ink and pen, Naruto sat down and dove into his sealing work. The battle raged just a few feet away. However, Naruto would not need to put pen to paper, as help arrived in the form of a purple-haired Anbu who made quick work of the snake, slicing it in half with her blade and causing it to disappear in a poof of smoke. But the danger passed him, the clones dispelled. Naruto should have been grateful to his savior, but instead his first words reflected anger and panic. "I didn't ask for any help. You can't disqualify my team." Itachi had been very clear, the proctors would help if it was needed, but at the cost of disqualification. In that context, perhaps Naruto's reaction was understandable. Still, Naruto was surprised when the Anbu Kunoichi quickly dropped to one knee and bowed her head toward him. He was even more surprised when she spoke. "No one is going to be disqualified, Naruto-sama. I am allowed to help in cases of outside interference, which this clearly was." "Don't call me that, and how is a snake outside interference?" "I cannot do that, Naruto-sama. As for the snake, it is true that there are large venomous snakes in this forest, but none that are that large or that color. Further, do you see a corpse here?" "No, it disappeared, almost as if it had been summoned." "A member of the snake clan." Naruto was taken aback by the realization. But Anko would never interfere in the exam like this. "No indeed, I know Lady Hada quite well, she did not order this. But she is not the only snake summoner." "Orochimaru." Naruto's voice was just barely above a whisper as he spoke. Granny Tsunade and the pervert's old teammate. The rogue Sannin was an infamous figure in Konoha, and given the legends around him, most shinobi in the village had a healthy fear of the village's greatest traitor in recent memory. Why would he send a snake after my team? At this moment, Yugao chose to lie to her lord, judging it better that he not panic and instead remain focused. He could be briefed on the rumors about Orochimaru's interest in him once he was safely in the tower. "I'm not sure, my lord, but I'm quite sure that Itachi will rule this a clear case of outside interference and that you will not be disqualified." "Like I said, lady, drop the lord and sama stuff, you aren't Uzumaki, I'm not your lord." "Oh, but you are my lord, Naruto-sama. I am Yuzuki Yugao and I am at your service." For the second time in only a matter of minutes, Naruto was rocked by a revelation. "And Yuzuki, alive? I didn't know any of you survived." "As far as I am aware, I am the last Yuzuki, my lord. I was born here in Konoha. My parents both served your mother and gave their lives defending her. I am honored to serve you." "I see." Naruto looked as if he wasn't quite sure what to say, and there was a brief awkward pause as he gathered his thoughts and searched for the words that he needed to say. "I'm sorry for your loss, and I'm very glad that you are here. Thank you for saving me." "It is my pleasure, Naruto-sama. Unless my lord needs something else from me, I'll be off. I must get to the tower and report this straight away." "Of course, thank you again." As Yugao flickered away in a shushin, the sounds of foliage and shrubbery being pushed aside reached Naruto and got increasingly louder until his teammates pushed through and appeared before him. After a quick reunion where each of them verified that the others were okay and Naruto promising Sasuke and Sakura a full explanation for what happened once they were safe in the tower, Team 7 pushed off once again. The next day. A knock at the door snapped Uchiha Itachi back into reality. Quickly looking around the office that he was occupying and training Ground 44 Central Tower, the head proctor for the second round of the Chunin exams silenced the radio system that allowed him to communicate with his assistants in the field, shut off the suite of CCTVs, beaming live footage from various points around the tower into his office, and called for those at the door to enter. "Ah, Team 7. I trust you had a good night's sleep." Sakura was the first to respond. "Yes, Itachi-sama, thank you for asking." "Sakura, I believe that last time Sasuke had his teammates over to the house to visit, I told you that if you don't speak to my little brother that formally, I don't want you speaking to me like that either, correct?" Sakura looked a bit embarrassed as she responded, "Oh, yes sir. My apologies." Itachi frowned a little bit. Sakura was well within her rights to call him sir. He was an Anbu captain, Jonin, and the proctor of the exam. Still, he had been hoping to just get Itachi back. Oh well. "Anyways, I asked for you three to come here because I've just heard back from the Hokage's office. Last night I sent over transcripts of each of your verbal reports as well as a written report from the Anbu who had rescued you and my rational for the preliminary ruling of external interference." "And?" Sasuke asked his older brother expectantly. "Lady Hokage agrees." This has been ruled outside interference. Because Team 7 already had 2 scrolls before the interference occurred, there are no problems. You have officially passed the second exam. Palpable looks of relief appeared on all 3 genins' faces, with none more obvious than Naruto's. Would it be possible for me to speak to the Anbu who helped me? Naruto asked, being careful not to reveal that he knew who his rescuer was. Neither Yuga nor Naruto had reported the more personal aspects of their conversation. I'd like to thank her again for saving me. That's not possible right now, Agent Cat is out on patrol in the forest. I'll pass along the word that you'd like to speak to her, but if she decides to take you up on that offer, it won't be until after the exam. Okay. Naruto had no problem with that. Now that he knew that there was a loyal Yuzuki left in Konoha, he had no doubt that he'd be speaking to her again at some point. So what are we supposed to do now? Looking from Sakura, who had asked the question, to the 2 boys standing on either side of her, Itachi spoke. Well, there are roughly 36 hours left in the exam, and there is technically still space for 1 more team to pass, so we'll give them the full amount of time allotted. In the meantime, you are free to rest in your room. There is also a lounge and cafeteria on the floor above your room if you wish to eat or socialize with another team. Beyond that, all you can really do is wait. Now if there's nothing else, I need to check in with my assistants out in the forest. Knowing they had been dismissed, Team 7 took their leave and were escorted back down to their room. As Itachi put aside the report the Hokage's office had sent him before, he stood up and made a short trip down the hall to the command center. There was still an exam going on after all, even if more than half the teams had either finished or forfeited. For Itachi and his team, there would be no respite until all teams were out of the forest one way or another. The next day. The more time that Team 7 spent inside the tower, the more impressed with the facility they became. The facilities for competing genin teams were impressive enough. Each floor allocated to hosting exam competitors had enough space to house multiple teams, including common restrooms and lounges on top of the private room assigned to each team. One entire floor was a cafeteria. On top of that, when visiting Itachi, they had been able to tell that the tower housed an impressive facility for observing everything that happened in the forest. Still, perhaps the biggest surprise Team 7 experienced was when they were escorted to the 12th floor at the conclusion of the exam, only to find that said floor was a small arena. There, Naruto, Sakura and Sasuke joined with the other 4 teams who had passed, lining up in front of a small platform where Itachi stood observing them. Behind Itachi, seated at what almost looked like a throne and dressed in the full regalia of her office, sat the goddamn Hokage, Lady Tsunade herself. As they stood in line, Naruto took a moment to survey the other teams. He of course already knew that both of his fellow Uzumaki had finished. Team 7 had wisely chosen not to engage Team 9 when they approached the tower, and Karen and Team 8 had gotten the better of his clones. Still, Naruto was very pleasantly surprised to see Team 10 standing there as well. This meant that all of his friends who had entered the forest had not only survived, but had passed. The 5th and final team was one that Naruto was unfamiliar with, though the genin on said team all appeared to be significantly older than the rest of the remaining exam takers. They've got to be what, 17? 18? Meanwhile all the rest of us are 13 or 14. Are we just that good or are they just that bad? Naruto was pulled from his musings when Itachi began speaking, congratulating those that had passed, while also expressing his surprise that a full set of 5 teams had actually made it through. Finally, he wrapped things up by introducing Tsunade. As the goddess stood and walked towards the front of the platform her chair was seated on, Naruto felt all the other genin stiffen a bit, stand a little straighter, perhaps make sure they were standing perfectly at attention. While Naruto himself was standing at attention, he was perhaps the only genin in the room who didn't seem to tense up or stand even straighter when the Hokage's eyes were upon him, but then again, as Tsunade's godson, Naruto was more familiar with her than any other genin in the room. Tsunade too offered her congratulations to the remaining exam takers before launching into an explanation of the differences between international and domestic exams. Naruto tuned this out for the most part, but a few moments did stick with him. Different villages value different things in their chunin. Because of that, it is difficult for international exam judges to come to any kind of agreement, and only a small few chunin are generally promoted at international exams. That tidbit of information was certainly interesting, but what Tsunade said next really got Naruto's attention. Chunin are the workhorses of the shinobi world, the single largest rank in every village's ninja corps, and the rank with far and away the highest mortality rate. We simply couldn't survive if only 1 or 2 were promoted to the rank every 6 months. As such, I must inform you that while none of you are guaranteed promotion, just by making it this far, you are all going to be considered for promotion, even if you withdraw before the final round. That sent a ripple of murmurs through the genin, but before things could get too out of hand, Tsunade stepped to the side and introduced the final proctor, a man known as Heiichi Echo. After offering his own congratulations, Hayate asked if anyone wanted to withdraw before the third round began. To Naruto's surprise, a genin of the oldest team did want to withdraw, though giving this person more attention, Naruto noticed that the teen's left leg was heavily bloodied and scarred. But the withdrawal official, a team of medical ninjas shoeshined onto the arena floor and began to examine the leg in question before carting the poor genin away. As one of the medics walked past, Naruto thought he heard something about surgery likely being required. But the number of participants reduced to 14, Hayate launched into an explanation of the third exam. The final round was to be a tournament held at the village stadium. Participants were to be given a month to prepare, as VIP clients from around the Land of Fire would be present, and Konoha wanted them to see a good show. The first round was to be a series of 7 one-on-one fights. In just a few minutes each genin would draw a number in order to determine who their first round opponent would be, they'd then have the month to train and prepare for that fight. After the one-on-one fights there would be a free-for-all event that would narrow the number of contestants from 7 to 4, though Hayate very purposefully gave no details about what the event was going to entail. Finally, the 4 semi-finalists would draw numbers again, and 3 one-on-one fights would be held, 2 semi-final matches and a final showdown. Having finished his high-level overview of the third round, Hayate began calling genin forward to pick a number, as the large video screen on the arena wall behind him flickered to life and showed an empty tournament bracket. Team 9 was called up first. Tenten drew number 11, and seconds later her name appeared in spot 11 on the video screen. Her Hyuga teammate Niji drew number 2, while her other teammate Rock Lee drew 6. Team 7 was called up next, as Sakura drew number 1, Sasuke drew 5, and Naruto drew 9. As their numbers filled in on the screen, Naruto's name appeared in a bracket against Lee. Some, like Shikamaru, then figured other details out. For example, whoever drew number 14 would fight Sakura, 13 would fight Niji, and etc. Naruto meanwhile initially winced upon seeing the matchup. While he had never seen Lee in action, he had certainly had conversations with Tenten about their respective teams and teammates. Just based on those conversations this would be a tough task for him. Still, after the initial wince a small smile worked its way onto Naruto's face. This would be a challenge, and one that he was looking forward to. As Naruto thought about his opponent, Hayate continued to call genin up, starting with the 2 older genin that Naruto wasn't familiar with. Hayate called their names revealing them as Yoroi Akado and Misumi Tsurugi. Yoroi drew number 8, while Misumi drew number 12. Next came Team 10. Ino drew number 7, Choji drew number 4, while Shikamaru drew number 14. Finally, Team 8 was called forward. Shino drew 3, Kiba drew 10, and Karen drew 13. With all numbers drawn, the first round was set. Baruno Sakura vs Nara Shikamaru. Hyuga Niji vs Uzumaki Karen. Aburam Shino vs Tsurugi Misumi. Akamichi Choji vs Uzumaki Tenten. Uchiha Sasuke vs Inuzuka Kiba. Rock Lee vs Uzumaki Naruto. Yamanaka Ino vs Akado Yoroi. With the matchups finalized, many shinobi began staring down their competition. Perhaps they were trying to intimidate their opponent and gain an early psychological advantage. Perhaps they were sizing them up. Ultimately, it was irrelevant as the Jonin sensei quickly appeared and snapped their genin subordinates to them. After a few final words from both Hayate and Tsunade, the various Jonin sensei took their teams to different sections of the arena where they could talk more privately. Despite the fact that his entire face was covered save for one eye, Kakashi's face seemed to positively glow. "I'm so proud of you all, my adorable genin, to have made it this far. Though I suppose Anko will be disappointed that she won't be able to punish any of you for failing." All 3 genin, even the normally stoic Sasuke, seemed a bit shaken by Kakashi's second sentence, having not previously considered that Anko would take such action. Though on reflection, the genin all realized that was absolutely something that their sensei's wife would do. Yes, they were very glad they had avoided such a fate. After letting out a quick sigh of relief in order to try to calm himself, Sasuke quickly pivoted the conversation away from Anko. "So Kakashi-sensei, what is our training going to look like for the next month?" "I am glad you asked. Chunin don't have organized training sessions, they set their own schedule. Thus, this is in some ways a test. Do you have the maturity to train on your own without a superior ordering you to do so? I'd recommend that you work hard 6 days a week, but do take at least 1 day a week completely off so that you don't burn out or injure yourself." The 3 genin all looked back at him with wide eyes, they wouldn't be training as a team. "Perhaps you could each get one teacher for 40 or so hours a week and another for 10 to 20 hours, that way you can get feedback from multiple people and have a primary and secondary training goal. That's just my advice though. I'm happy to provide you with a list of possible tutors as well as recommendations for what you could work on." But what about you sensei?" Sakura asked. "Ma, well remember that I'm supposed to be on paternity leave right now. Not only do I have the newborn at home, but Obito is struggling to adjust to having a sibling, and I don't really have the time to train you. I'm needed at home with my family. Plus, it would be a conflict of interest for me to train all three of you, or one at the expense of the other two. How's Rin? Sakura followed up, curious about Kakashi's newborn daughter. Well enough I suppose, it took a while for the hospital to discharge her because they wanted to keep her under observation for a while, but now that we've got her home the four of us are adjusting. Pivoting back to the subject of training, Kakashi continued speaking. While I won't be able to train you, feel free to swing by the house at any time if you need advice on something, and do keep me in the loop about your training schedules, I might be able to pop by every once in a while. Why don't we set up a time for each of you to come by the house tomorrow for a one-on-one meeting with me? I can give you recommendations and advice for your training for the next month, and you can see Rin for yourself. I'll keep our conversations private so not even your teammates know what you are working on. All three genin quickly agreed to that, and within a few minutes times for each of Team 7's genin to swing by the Haddock Manor the next day had been agreed and finalized. After a final pep talk in which he warned his genin about sharing training information even with each other, and a reminder that he was very proud of them, Kakashi dismissed the team and shoo-shined away, saying something about needing to buy diapers on the way home. As Team 7 split up, Naruto saw his quasi-uncle and regent standing in a different corner of the arena. A quick scan revealed that Tenten was already heading towards Yoshide, and that Karen had noticed her father's presence and would likely head his way once Team 8 was done meeting, so Naruto also began working his way to him. In only a few minutes all three Uzumaki genin were standing in front of Yoshide as congratulations were exchanged. The Uzumaki clan could not be more proud of the effort you three have put in so far in these exams. We want you to keep working hard to prepare for the finals, but in the meantime I thought that tonight the clan could have a gathering to celebrate your success so far. You don't mean Naruto's words trailed off as he, Karen, and Tenten could barely contain their excitement. Yes, of course. Yoshide too was very excited, what sort of Uzumai party would it be if there wasn't a ramen cookout? Naruto, Karen, and Tenten all let out excited screeches and dashed out of the room, eager to get out of the forest and back to the Uzumaki compound. Yoshide followed at a more composed pace. From nearby, Tsunade could only chuckle and mutter, I swear the ramen obsession must be genetic in that clan. So, since you are 1/4 Uzumaki, does that mean you have 1/4 of a ramen obsession? Her husband asked cheekily. What if Naruto Uzumaki clan survivors move to Konoha? End here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.